Hello, everybody, and welcome to the first edition of Ladder Legends on Lichess. My name is Stefanov. I'm an international master, and I'll be your live commentator for today's match. We have two very top level grandmasters, Grandmaster Oleksiyenko and Grandmaster Vetoshko. This will be an exciting match, and I'll be bringing you the live commentary for it. The point of Ladder Legends is to bring classical games between grandmasters and be able to digest them as a live audience so we can all learn while the grandmasters are playing. And to introduce our two grandmasters, let's welcome in Grandmaster Mihailo Oleksiyenko and Grandmaster Volodymyr Vetoshko. Hello, gentlemen. How are we feeling today?
Fighting spirit. Thank you for asking.
Yeah, same here. Ready to play some fighting chess today.
Okay, I hope you guys have done your puzzles. There's going to be a lot of fireworks happening in today's match, I assume. Two very fighting spirits with a lot of calculations. Just to give you guys a little bit of a history, these two grandmasters used to be a student teacher. So, coaching history right there. So, Grandmaster Volodymyr, how do you feel facing your former coach? Are you excited? Do you want to showcase to him that you are the master now?
Yeah, always a pleasure to spend time with Mihailo, to play chess against him, especially. I think we already played a dozen of games against each other, even in tournament games. And if you check our games, there was always some fights, some mess on the board, in most of them, I think. So, and I have to say that Mihailo played quite an important role in my life, chess-wise. I appreciate everything he has done for me. And I think he sort of helped me to change my thought process when I was stagnating between like 22, 2300. And I actually consider Mihailo to be one of the helpers there for me to become a grandmaster. So always happy to play some chess, and I'll try my best today.
Okay, awesome. Awesome. And Grandmaster Mihailo, right back at you.
How can I come back after that praise? I cannot play Volodymyr anymore with my full strength. So I'm kidding. We did work a long time ago. I'm glad I was of that influence. Always a pleasure to talk and play with Volodymyr. So even though we're good friends in life, but that's not going to be over the board today. So we'll see what happens.
Okay, some fighting words. Awesome. Well, gentlemen, I hope you are ready. And if you are wondering, audience back at home, chess people with the internet, if you're wondering how are we going to decide who's going to be with the white pieces, well, I guess the seniors should go first, right? I'm kidding. Obviously, I'm kidding. We will do the good old coin toss. So we'll just bring up a coin toss on screen, so we can determine who's going to be with the white pieces and who's going to be with the black pieces. So, any preferences, gentlemen? Who wants to call out heads or tails? I will do the...
After you, Volodymyr.
Oh, okay, let's say heads.
Okay, Grandmaster Volodymyr is going to be heads, and Grandmaster Mihailo is tails. All right, let me flip the coin, and... All right, we get tails. We never called out the colors, but I'm assuming, I am assuming we're going to have whatever it landed on, the white color, right? So
Sure.
Grandmaster Mihailo is with the white pieces, right? Correct, gentlemen? Yep. Okay, awesome. So you can go ahead and challenge each other. And from here on, we're going to make sure that the game is about to start. So we'll make sure that the grandmasters are not going to be disturbed, and we'll wait just a little bit, and we will pull the game analysis as it's about to start. Let's go ahead and let's see. Just need a few seconds just to pull the game on our screen. So let's see. Just waiting on my side for the game to start. There we go. That's the scene. Okay. And then we said we have Grandmaster Oleksiyenko with the white pieces. So Grandmaster Oleksiyenko with the white pieces. There we go. Let's go ahead and yeah, let's go ahead. 1 second, guys. Just a little bit of technical difficulties as usual. There's nothing new happening in life if there are no technical difficulties. Am I right? Okay, our current live board is not quite updating. I'm going to make sure that it is. Okay. I will bring you along with the game. It has already started. Give me 1 second, guys. Just want to make sure that the live board is updating properly before I showcase. Thank you so much for sticking around. Okay, I think the live board is there. So we can go ahead and transition into the very first couple of moves. And we can already see quite an exciting position that we already have on the board. So we should be able to have it. Okay. All right, there we go, guys. You guys should be able to see it. And we have a Sicilian. So let's go back a little bit and let's go ahead and sit and see what happened. So we have e4, c5. So as I said, fighting chess. So that's exactly what we're getting. We're getting a Sicilian. And Grandmaster Oleksiyenko decides knight f3 into the open Sicilian. That makes perfect sense. You want the most fighting lines ever. But we get queen b6. Grandmaster Vetoshko coming in with some preparation. Again, this is quite a rare line. It's not unknown. It has been played before, but it is very much a sort of a rare occurrence this early on. Nowadays, what the Grandmasters do is they play g6. They go into the accelerated dragon systems. There's also knight f6, which does have the idea to transpose or to go for the Sveshnikov lines or the Chelyabinski lines. And there's also Kalashnikov lines with e5. And lastly, of course, there's the 4-knight Sicilian. So a lot of options, but we have queen b6 attacking already the knight, bringing out the queen early on. And we have knight b3 played by Grandmaster Oleksiyenko. Makes perfect sense. Just trying to prevent the knight from obviously being captured. And we have e6 on the board and logical development of the bishop. And now knight c3. Now, one of the biggest questions that we have to ask is, what is the queen on b6 doing? In fact, usually the queen is on c7 after the move a6. So there might be a waste of a tempo that black is going to do. But maybe with this setup, Grandmaster Vetoshko is making sure to avoid any sort of mainline preparations that Grandmaster Oleksiyenko had in his arsenal. And of course, this is happening on Lichess. So we have the Opening Explorer, one of the best things ever on the Lichess browser, of course. So we have over here, per the master database, I am seeing that the move queen b6 is not a very popular move. Queen b6 is in fact not played too much at all. Queen b6 was only played not too many times. Yeah, I only have 3.8k thousands games in the master database. So as opposed to something like knight f6, which there are a lot more master database games. There are 45,000 games as opposed to the mere 3,800. So what do we have here? Let's see, go back into the live board. Queen c7 was played by Grandmaster Vetoshko. That is something that I alluded to earlier. Obviously asking the question, what is the queen doing there? Or even before bishop e3 is played with tempo, Grandmaster Vetoshko decides, you know what, I'm just going to bring back my queen to c7, already preemptively go away from bishop e3. And now the big question is, has black basically won the opening battle, and won in quotations, of course? What have they won? Well, they've played queen b6, queen c7, so maybe they haven't really won. But if we compare this position, so we'll go a little bit behind, with e6, knight c3, queen c7. This is a theoretical line, of course. And here, white's main move is actually bishop e3. There's also bishop e2. There's other moves like g3. But typically, white does play bishop e3 in this position. So kind of what we have is white playing knight b3, but white also gets an extra tempo. So it's a little bit of an interesting choice by Grandmaster Vetoshko. Decides to avoid mainline theory with that obscure move, little queen b6, and Then we get I'm going to turn on the engine for all of us chess people so we don't get confused what's happening. And we get the back to live board. We have bishop d3. Of course, that's exactly what I was talking about. And we have people asking in the chat, can we please get a link to the Lichess game? And yeah, we should be able to bring that up. And we have a6. So again, what is happening here is Grandmaster Vetoshko is perfectly fine playing down a tempo. For those of you who maybe just be tuning in, this is how we got into this position. It was a Sicilian, then queen b6 was played, a little bit of a sideline, then we get knight b3, and now this queen doesn't stand that well here in the Sicilian, so naturally Grandmaster Vetoshko just puts it back on c7, but that is a waste of a tempo, and Grandmaster Oleksiyenko just says, you know what, I'm going to take the free hand of the tempo that you're giving me, I'll play bishop d3, a6, a typical move, restricting the access to the b5 square, maybe later preparing b5 and b4 expansion on the queen side, typical Sicilian stuff, and we got short castle already. The engine is slightly in favor of white's position. Of course, if we go back a little bit, as I already mentioned, this position could have been reached without the loss of tempo for black, had they played e6 on move 4 instead of queen b6, and after knight c3, queen c7, we get this position where, of course, white is by no means obligated to play knight b3, and bishop e3 is the main move, and this is just the beginning of the opening theory. There's a lot of games here. The idea with queen f3 in some lines is to go queen g3 and trade the queens, a little bit unusual strategy in the Sicilian, but obviously also allowing the long castle. So very interesting fighting positions can arise from this, but of course we get a little bit of an interesting Sicilian position. Already short castle indicates that it's going to be a little bit more tame, I should say. We're not going for any of the extravagant bishop e3, queen d2 or queen e2 and long castle variations where, you know, white is just a madman on the king side, just throws in all the pawns as much as possible. Instead, we get short castle, and knight f6 was played. Logical development. And now the big question is, how does white continue here? Of course, f4 is one of the main moves, and I'm anticipating that this is going to be played. Alternatives could be h3, already making sure that there's no knight g4, but I highly doubt that. Of course, you do want to watch out for this diagonal, but currently everything is covered. There's interesting strategies for black. They might decide to keep the king in the center and just go for some h5 ideas. That is very typical. There's also the idea just to go b6, d6, bishop e7, bishop e7. Just go in a hedgehog type of a position. But we do see f4 by Grandmaster Oleksiyenko. So the game is picking up. It is move 9. And currently I can see in the master database, there have been some games played. Not as of recent. Nowhere near the recent 2000s, I should say. 2020s at the very top level. But okay, I think both sides should be happy. White gets a very nice center as typical, and black probably is going to line up a little bit as a hedgehog. There could be potential for b5, and really the big question here is, what is this knight on b3 really doing? If this knight, for example, was on e2, it would have way better prospects. It could go to g3, go towards the king side. This is where white is trying to play, of course, through the center as well. I should anticipate that Grandmaster Vetoshko plays pawn to d6. If not pawn to d6, then of course this could be an annoying threat to face pawn to e5. So let's see how Grandmaster Vetoshko is going to continue. Just a reminder, guys, this is a 45 minutes plus 30-second game. So it is a classical, but at the same time, you do want to make sure that you are not wasting time necessarily, right? It's move 9. You don't want to spend like 10 minutes here and just waste all your time, and then you're not going to have time in the middle game or end game, the important moments of the game. So yeah, currently the position is probably about what both sides wanted, and the battle is just starting. So I'm going to tune into some of the comments over here, making sure that we keep the chat engagement going on. So you can see we have no time on off. Someone said in the chat, yes, no time on off. But I guess in a way, it's a little bit of a weird Sicilian, nonetheless, could resemble Taimanov's setups. But yeah, really, the bishop on d3 is quite interesting because for the longest time, people actually put the bishop on e2 going to f3. Only recently, in the last couple of years, have people started really playing the bishop on d3, and it serves a very different purpose. Obviously, long term, it's eyeing that h7 pawn in the event that black decides to short castle, so that is definitely an option. And also, it reinforces the queen side a little bit better. So usually black is going to get some typical counterplay for Sicilian on the c-file. Well, with the bishop on d3, this is actually well guarded. So this knight is actually free to maneuver around in the future if it needs to. Obviously, if b5, b4 is played where the knight gets kicked out, then you can see the value of the bishop reinforcing the pawn structure as well on the queen side. But at the same time, sometimes it could feel like a weak piece. If we never get e5, then what is this bishop really doing? If we get f5, then as something very typical, I'm not saying this is going to happen right away, but just as an example, if this ever happens, obviously the bishop is supporting, but what is it doing there? Nothing else, right? So there are moments where the bishop could feel very weak. There are moments where it could feel very powerful. So we're just going to have to see how this game develops. Of course, it is prone to being attacked with knight b4, knight takes d3. If this knight was on b8, the typical reroute would be d7, c5, and capturing it. But in many of these lines, white is actually perfectly fine to just allow these captures to happen. All right, let me see if we have some more questions in the chat. What difference did queen b6 and queen c7 maneuver make? I don't understand why not queen remain on d8, and we would have saved 2 tempi for development as black. That is a very great question thrown out in the chat. So to explain a little bit more about it, essentially right here, going back into the main position, what we do have is we have right here the open Sicilian. So we have so many options, as I already alluded to, right? There's knight f6, there's e5, there's e6, etc., etc. With e6, the queen can already go to c7, so we don't have to waste the tempo, as the viewer so wisely said. But here, white has a lot more chances to go into mainline theory, which nowadays, if you're going into mainline theory, you better be prepared. You better know what's happening, right? This has been played a lot at the top grandmaster levels, and there's a lot of theory behind this. There's a6, queen f3, with some ideas to go queen g3, trade the queens, which is very unusual for Sicilian, some long castle, the usual pressure. There are some very crazy lines here. So if you're not prepared for this and you want to throw your opponent off opening prep, then you play this move queen b6. You play this move queen b6. You basically say, all right, let's just play normal chess. I'm going to make you waste the tempo because obviously you don't want to play bishop e3, right? You don't want to walk into this down a pawn situation. So you play knight b3. And the alternative is knight b5, but okay, there's a long theory here. And maybe this was in fact Grandmaster Vetoshko's preparation, and so Grandmaster Oleksiyenko just played knight b3. But now what we have is a quote-unquote brand new Sicilian position. White has played knight b3. Again, just comparing those notes, comparing those lines. Here in this variation, white never had to play knight b3. In fact, this knight sometimes goes and sacrifices itself on b5, sometimes it goes to f5, depending on the situation. So sometimes it really goes to e2. So that is, I believe, the intention behind Grandmaster Vetoshko's queen b6 move. Get his opponent out of the opening prep, and now just go back into playing normal chess. And so that's a very good question. I hope that answered it. And we have some development on the board. We have b5. Very interesting move. Okay, so I did allude to the fact that I was anticipating the move d6 to be played and not b5, mainly because with d6, you're 100% stopping e5, right? Let's logically trace back the last couple of moves. That's always what you want to do. F4, why does the opponent play this move, right? If we're placing ourselves in Grandmaster Vetoshko's shoes, then essentially we're saying, okay, what was the last move's idea? Okay, it's to play e5. It's to kick away my knight from f6. So by playing this logical move d6, I'm making sure that that square is overprotected, so there's going to be no problems, and I can stop successfully e5. But very interestingly, Grandmaster Vetoshko says, you know what? I'm not fearing e5. I don't care that you're going to play e5. Go ahead. In fact, I encourage it. Now the engine does not really think that it's probably in his interest, but I'm assuming the idea is to counterattack. Now in chess, there's always a few things that you can do when one of your pieces is attacked. In fact, that's what I teach all my students. there's three things you can do. If a piece of yours is attacked, you can obviously move it, you can defend it, or you can counterattack another piece of equal or higher value, right? So in this situation, our knight's being attacked, so we want to attack a piece of equal or higher value. So b4 is a very logical move. Defending our knight doesn't make sense. It's being attacked by a lower value piece, and then moving it is not ideal. Why is this not ideal? Because the squares that we can move into are not great, right? These are just targeted by the queen, whoops. And then this one's targeted by the bishop and the knight, whoops. And then knight d5 towards the center doesn't seem that great. Because after knight takes d5, this is going to ruin your pawn structure. You don't want this. You don't want this to happen ever to you, okay? This is an ugly pawn structure. This is not how you play Sicilian. And obviously going back is going to be really bad as well. You just allow this knight to hop into the square, possibly. There could be a4, there could be knight e4. This is a beautiful knight as opposed to this knight on f6. So that's why the idea is b4. Kick this knight away first. Let's say this, as we can see, that is actually happening live on the board. And we can have knight a4, and now, only now you get knight d5. So there's a little bit of a difference. As you saw here, if we had moved our knight, then knight e4, our knight's really passive, and this one's really active. But by playing b4, essentially what we're doing is we're saying, okay, move your knight. If you take my knight, I'll take your knight. You take my pawn, I'll take your... I'm kidding. We will not take this pawn. The reason why we will not take this pawn is because there's going to be a queen covering the promotion of our queen. Also, there's the knight there. But here we will make sure to play bishop takes g7. And this is quite an imbalanced position. Maybe this is what Grandmaster Vetoshko is trying to go for. I'm not sure if we're going to see that. This is definitely a possible continuation. I don't see any reasons to quote-unquote reject it if I'm in Grandmaster Oleksiyenko's shoes. The reason why is when I get here, obviously I have the engine, but if I turn it off for a second and we get this position here, then essentially what we have is a position in which Black's king is relatively weak, right? If it castles, it's out in the open. Obviously, Black has more central pawns, but with those central pawns also come the responsibility of semi-open files for White. There's this weak square on h5. There could be a queen landing in here. There could be f5 trying to go through the center. Obviously, this pawn's hanging. There's a lot of chaos happening here, but usually when chaos ensues, the side that is better prepared is going to be in a better position. If we do a comparison between the pieces, well, this king is relatively more safe or safer than this one. I know it looks crazy, but essentially why that's the case is because we can go king h1, safeguard our king for the long game, while this king will always find it difficult. Does it go queen side? Does it stay in the center? Does it go king side? Anywhere it goes, it's going to be weak. Obviously, we're going to be trying to attack it with queen h5 and f5 potentials. We compare the other pieces. Well, knights are relatively about the same value. Bishops are relatively about the same value. Then it's really going to come down to this bishop and this bishop. This one might have more prospects once f5 is played later on in the game. Now, another thing to consider is the rooks. This one on f1 is way more powerful than the one on h8. Nonetheless, this is not my type of chess. I very much prefer a more controlled game, an environment in which, okay, I can sort of figure out the strategical elements, not the dynamic elements. This is a crazy position. Of course, if I did not have the engine, I would have to spend probably 10 minutes on this position. Do I take this pawn? Probably that's the first question I'm asking myself. Do I play rook b1? Because obviously black does have an attack immediately. Do I play queen g4? That comes with a tempo as well. Those are the three candidate moves that I'll be looking at. Probably do need to start with rook b1. If I do take, then after takes, rook b1 has to be played. And now the bishop is on c3, but I actually prefer the bishop being on g7. In the future, I might have this queen g4 idea. Not right now, because there's some rook g8 kind of annoying, protects the bishop, bishop d4, discover check is on the horizon. But in the future, I might be able to target that bishop. So yes, definitely a crazy position. So let's go back to the life. Let's see, Grandmaster Mihailo is definitely considering what to do in this situation. The alternatives are knight a4, knight e2, and of course we already said e takes f6. Knight e4 is not a move that you want to make, because this will only lead to trades that will benefit black. Here in this position, black is kind of struggling for space. Oh, and we do see e takes f6. I did have a master database that went knight a4. We will go back into it, but we see these quick recaptures, and now this is another great moment. In fact, I only discussed f takes g7, but there's a world in which you allow this capture to happen. The reason you allow it, let's say f takes g7 was played already. Never mind. I was going to mention there's a world where you allow this to happen, and the only reason I wanted to say that is this bishop now is a lot weaker, so it's going to take more time for the bishop to become powerful on the long diagonal. But instead, we see taking on g7, and bishop takes g7 was played. Obviously, making sure that there's going to be no surprises, and b takes c3. So relatively fast, these moves were played, and now it is up to Grandmaster Vetoshko to figure out how to continue in this position. Of course, there's bishop takes c3, but this is a double pawn. That is not necessarily something you want to go for. I mean, you definitely could. The one drawback of leaving this pawn here is that maybe white is going to have more control towards d4, so you might want to clear out this pawn now rather than later. But it is a double pawn, so it is very much a weak pawn. You don't have to rush to take this pawn. So yeah. Definitely an interesting position. I'm just reading the chat over here. There are going to be more Ladder Legends games after this. I would hope so. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this. And if you guys do, let us know in the comments if you're enjoying this so far. If you are, please let us know. And definitely we can see what can be done for more Ladder Legends. I'm just going to take a little sip. Celestial Sage did ask, what kind of Sicilian is this called? It is a Sicilian, definitely. It is a Sicilian. I do not know what it is called based on everything that has been played. Let's say Queen b6 was played. I mean, this is kind of an open Sicilian. This is from what Lichess tells me right here on the master database. It says Go Diva variation. I have no idea how do we came up with this name. Probably some person named Go Diva. But after this, we kind of transpose into some normal looking Sicilians, except white is up an extra tempo, which definitely benefits white more. If I have to guess, nowadays we just call these the Neo-Sicilian Godiva variation, whatever you want to call it. Just put Neo in front of the name and it's going to be beautiful, okay? Just trust it, okay? But after b takes c3, we do have this position. Let's see. I mean, Grandmaster Vetoshko is thinking. He does have 38 minutes on the clock. I think this is a great position to just spend 5 minutes. Make sure you understand what is going on. Do you really want to continue with bishop takes c3? Do you want to continue with bishop b7, opening up your bishop this way? The engine is not in favor of it. Obviously, there's knight c5 hitting your bishop, so you don't really want to develop if it's going to let white get rid of their knight. And this is exactly what I was talking about. The d4 square is covered by the pawn. But this is actually quite an interesting move. There's bishop takes c3. Whoa, okay. Bishop e3. We sack the exchange. Yeah, that makes sense. Now, looking at the engine, that's really helpful. Maybe we should try to make this as fair as possible and then turn off the engine. Let's see. In this position, I do know that bishop takes c3 is the best move, but trying to come up with some other candidate moves. I mean, but what else do you do? Maybe you play rook g8, try to have this on pre, but there's bishop takes h7, so maybe you don't want to go that route quite yet. I am very much opposed to pushing the pawn early on. I mean, you could potentially push it to d6 or d5, but currently that's a great sort of hut. That's a great little pawn chain. It's not even a pawn chain yet, but it's a great way for your king to be safe right now. So you definitely want to be careful with pushing these pawns right now. So we do see bishop takes c3, the move that was played in the game, which does make a lot of sense, obviously. It is the most logical move. I'm anticipating we will see rook b1. However, now that we mentioned that we could sack the exchange, I will not be surprised if I see the moves bishop a3, or maybe even bishop e3. Bishop a3, I do like this diagonal for the bishop, but I don't know if it's going to be the most useful. Bishop e3, just always the standard, the gold standard, right? We cover the diagonal for our king. Our king is going to be relatively safe. And yeah, we just have future options to nonetheless go back to this diagonal, a3 to f8. And of course, this rook is hanging, but we will say thank you very much for capturing it. Now I have all the dark squares under my control. And I'm assuming if we turn on the engine, we will definitely see that maybe it is better for white. And it is better for white, not as much as I thought. It is only plus minus 0.8. Maybe on the low depth, currently it's saying 0.8. Maybe on a higher depth, it will say it's slightly more in favor of white, maybe closer to 1.3. And the reason I'm saying that is because the value of the pieces matters more than the material here. Basically, what is this guy doing here? Nothing. So even though this guy's worth 5 points, we demote him. You know, the rook is going to be worth 4 points. What is this guy doing? Other than being attacked, nothing else. So this guy's probably going to be worth 4 points as well. In fact, rook g8 runs into bishop h7, so rook f8 is kind of the only move. And if we compare white's pieces after knight c5, look at this. Beautiful knight, maybe costs 4 points instead of 3 points. Beautiful bishops, maybe instead of 3 points. Both of them are 4 points. And you can easily start doing the math. White is definitely slightly better. Again, a lot of weak squares for black to cover. Knight e4, knight f6 is the idea with that move. Trying to go for the dark square domination. And yeah, black is definitely in a very tough battle. So I will not be surprised if we do see bishop to e3 potentially played. But I will be very surprised if we see bishop takes a1. I do not anticipate us seeing bishop takes a1. This is one of those exchanges that grandmasters know not to take. They just understand the game very easily. Let me catch up on the chat. Sorry, Divya Bengani said definitely enjoying this. Glad to hear that. No spamming, please. Yep. Let's try to keep the chat respectful without spamming. Bishop a3 looks really strong. Yes, Lennon. Yeah, that's the other option that I did mention. Also, very interesting option again, blocking any castling. But okay, nonetheless, I don't think we should be worried about castling from black in this position. They're really going to walk into some grave danger. So I don't think we definitely need to worry about that. But bishop a3, I would assume it's equivalent to string with bishop e3. Would not know exactly which one I would prefer. Maybe bishop e3. Again, I'm more of a let's make sure our pieces are well positioned to guard our king as well. And from later, this bishop will have value 100%. But yeah, obviously bishop a3 already looks really fascinating and really good for white as well. So that is definitely good. Why not save the rook? Tanya, that's a great question. I mean, just because we're cool, right? Like sometimes you just gotta sack the rook. Is that okay for me to say? Is that okay for me to say without screaming it? I hope that's okay. I hope I'm not gonna be in any legal problems. But yeah, sometimes you just gotta sack the rook. You know what I'm saying? No, but in honesty, we do definitely don't have to sack the rook, right? We could just save it, as Grandmaster Oleksiyenko just played rook b1. The sacking idea is not really one that black will take, so it's just a fancy way of saying, look, you can take my rook if you want. I know that this is going to be better for me. If you do not take my rook now, maybe you could take it later, so I will probably have to place it to b1. There's a world in which if the rook can come into the center file, that's already great. But when the queen moves away, then the piece that will have to recapture the rook on a1 is going to be another rook, which is not what white wants to do. So yeah, we do see rook b1. This also gives flexibility. We're not saying if we're going bishop a3 or bishop e3. We can decide later on, based on what happens during the game, to decide which square is going to be better for the bishop. And this rook definitely does put in the work. Why is that? Well, with bishop b7, we're clearly going to have some attacking chances. Maybe let's be a little bit careful and not run into some bishop d4 easy tricks. But let's say I play bishop e3, later knight c5. We're going to put a lot of pressure on this bishop. So yeah, the rook does make a lot of sense here. Pawns are equal, but position is high tension. Yeah. Stream, Twitch, free content, I like the people that are texting in Bulgarian. Thank you so much. I am Bulgarian. I will strictly stick to speaking in English so everybody can enjoy that and not just my Bulgarian friends. But I appreciate you guys for being here. I think Queen a7 is important to make c5 and e3 squares covered. Yes, that is actually a good idea. And another reason why bishop e3 could have been a good option to already stop that. But what I will say after queen a7 is this is exactly where our king wants to go, right? Our king wants to go tucked into the corner. And I don't think you're stopping bishop e3, right? This queen probably wants to be on e2 or on f3, potentially maybe on e2. And then the bishop is going to go to e3 anyways. What we do see is bishop b7. Okay, let's go ahead and double check with our engine. Let's go ahead and make sure what's happening. Is queen b6 anything from black right now to get on the diagonal first before white can play bishop b3? Yeah, I think that's exactly what I was trying to answer, that it's not going to be that useful. Also, you don't want to place the queen in x-ray of the rook. So later on, the queen might be under attack. And a great question over here. What is the point of these games? Educational, excitement, thrilling, adventurous. Do I need to say more? The game is for us to be able to learn and for us to be able to enjoy these games. Grandmaster versus Grandmaster in a sort of a classical format. So we're not getting any of those 3-minute or 5-minute games that are going to be full with a lot of mistakes. Here we're going to get quality games, and we're going to be able to learn from these games and also at the same time enjoy them, right? Who's with me, guys? Are we enjoying this? I'm enjoying this so far. But let's see. Engine says things are okay-ish. I mean, still a slight edge for white following the move bishop e3. We can double check our work, guys. We can double check our work. Bishop e3 was not the best move, mainly because of the move knight e7. Already looking to attack our bishop potentially through knight d5. What about bishop a3? Some of the other people did mention this move. Slightly better because it's not going to get attacked, but also gets lost in the mist of variations that there are, in the many variations that there are, purely because, I mean, black is never really wanting to short castle anyways. So unless we can get the bishop to d6, then there's no real purpose behind bishop a3. So rook b1, obviously, the move that was played. And bishop b7, not the top level engine move. Knight e7, apparently the engine thought that knight e7 is better, rerouting the knight, but also giving the bishop some time to go. Bishop b7 and bishop c6 maybe. This way you could dodge any sort of attacks. Our queen here will be covering the bishop on c3. Also, maybe acting as a defender against some f5 ideas later in the future. But really, I think it's just to make sure that the knight is able to reroute to a better square for sure. But again, f5 is possible to be played anyway. So, oh man, you get a quite of a complex position. This is there, but also this is there. Apparently, bishop b7 was the only move. It's welcome to modern chess and dynamic positions. But we did say these players are both dynamic, so they are perfectly fine playing these positions. Bishop b7 was played. Now, bishop e3 to threaten knight c5 is a big problem. If you play knight e7, knight c5, bishop c6, maybe this was the idea. But maybe this pawn could just be captured. Apparently the engine thinks that, hey, let's just go ahead and capture a pawn on a6. Why not? Just welcome to the craziness of engines. How about we just capture a pawn on a6? You know, it's totally worth it, right? Okay, per the engine it says yes, but I would not be surprised if this does not happen. This line looks a little too artificial, but maybe it does happen because the queen is getting attacked with a tempo. It's gonna have to go to an awkward square, and yeah, I mean the knight's also awkward on the edge of the board. Also, the rook is somewhat open, but you never know. You might play knight b4, hit this bishop more. Just, yeah, I don't even know how to start digesting this position. I probably need like 5 to 10 minutes just to figure out what's going on. I mean, white's up an extra pawn, but really, is that the best we can do? Like, just one extra pawn that we're always going to have to worry when we move the knight. Rook takes a2 is going to be there. Don't think that's the best, but I mean, who am I to argue with the engine, right? The teacher against the student. That's right. I'm reading comments. The teacher against the student. That's right. Currently, the teacher is in a slightly better position. That is Grandmaster Oleksiyenko. And the move bishop e3 makes a lot of sense. Now, again, knight c5 is the big deal. So how do you stop that? Do you play d6? That looks always weakening. You never really want to do that. It weakens this diagonal, but it also weakens this diagonal once fe6 happens. I mean, this is just one of those positions where you could just get blown out of the board with fe6 and queen h5. So, yeah, I don't like this at all. We definitely want to keep this pawn there to reinforce the e6 one. Man, just everything to play for in this position. The c file is half open and the b file is open, so castling queen side seems very dangerous. Yeah, Timothy, you're right. It does look dangerous, but you know what? Sometimes you got to do what you got to do. If white goes all in on attacking on the king side and in the center, then maybe just moving your king to the queen side will give you that safety. Let's not forget, black does get some counterplay. Let's not sleep on this counterplay. Rook g8 and the bishop on b7. You're going to have to make sure that that's covered, probably by playing rook f2. You never want to play g3. Never want to play g3. It opens the diagonal even further. Do not do that to your king. But maybe rook f2. This is how you defend the g2 pawn. So maybe that's a move that you have to invest. But also rook g8 is an investment in and of itself because, you know, in the future this pawn's hanging. So yeah, it could be another pawn that white just ends up winning and, you know, engine just says, oh yeah, we won another pawn. It's great. Our position's fantastic. But yeah, definitely a messy position, and calculating is going to be very important. Just calculation and evaluation of the positions. Who's able to evaluate the position better is going to be the big deal. But it is definitely a battle that we have in front of us. Hamil, what do you think about this match? Who's the favorite and how much games they will play? Fishy Blanca, that's a great question. I think, if I have to say, Grandmaster Vetoshko, in my opinion, is the favorite. Mainly because he is 1 year older than me, and I'm 27, and he is 28. And so Grandmaster Oleksiyenko is a little bit older. I think he's born 1986. I can't do quick math, but you guys can do that for me. And Grandmaster Vetoshko is 1998. So there is a 14-year difference. So, you know, that definitely comes to play. So it's not like, okay, the older person is going to be slower. None of that. It's just more about who's going to get tired first. I will place, before the match, I place my bet on Grandmaster Vetoshko if I had to place a bet. But currently during this game and what's been happening, I will say I like White's position. Not just because the engine tells me White is better, although that definitely has to do with it. But I've played a similar looking position. Not quite, but similar looking, where my bishop wasn't on d3, but it was on a4. It's quite of a messy game there, but I definitely had a lot of pressure going on in the center and on the king side. And yeah, I just felt like by just playing this move rook f2, I cover my only weakness. That's kind of my only weakness, right after rook g8 and the knight moving away from c6. So when I can mitigate my problems with just one move, I like that a lot. When I know that I'm going to be under an ongoing attack, I don't like that at all. So here, Black's going to be under an ongoing attack. Why? Because the king hasn't castled. It hasn't decided which side it's going to. So it's going to be an attack through the center, attack on the king side if it decides to castle short, which will be not good. Or queen side, well, there's the open b file. So as it was already mentioned by someone in the chat. So yeah, your king is just going to be ongoingly in pain. So I'd much rather deal with, okay, I've decided my king's short castle. I just need to play rook f2. Yeah, don't worry about it. We'll figure out the rest. We'll figure out the rest later, right? Just defend it. If I have to, I'll play bishop f1. Okay, you got me. You got me. If I have to, I'll play rook f2 and bishop f1. You got me. But, you know, if I can improve this knight, like if I can just put this knight in the center, boom. Absolute cinema, all right? This is going to be a beautiful position for white. So we'll see if that's possible. We'll see if that's going to happen. Of course, d6, the move that we already said, don't play that move. Maybe knight e7, but that doesn't block knight c5. So at least we do have the opening of the bishop, which will cover knight e4. And as we already mentioned, this line is better for white, apparently. But knight e4, let's see what the engine says. I mean, yeah, definitely got to chop this guy, right? Nope. Do not chop this guy. Yeah, I mean, okay, 2 bishops advantage. But I thought we had to do this. I thought we had to, like, make sure that that knight is bishop d5. I mean, okay, you're giving up this bishop. Apparently, it's better to give this bishop and leave your attacking bishop alive. The more you know. I mean, all these dark squares are so weak, but I guess this bishop is not ideally placed right now to really be able to engage on the dark squares. Like, if I could just place it there, then that's a different story. But yeah, sadly, bishops don't move like that. Yeah, that's obviously a joke. But let's see. Let me catch up on the channel, on the chat, guys. So sorry about that. Or maybe bishop b4 for black here to cover c5. But you don't want to place the bishop on b4. Your bishop's already placed on a great diagonal. You definitely want to keep the bishop there. Bishop b4, it will cover knight c5, yeah, for sure. But it's kind of this principle of like, you have a piece in the center. It's in a beautiful diagonal. Don't move it. Don't move it unless you have to. Unless you absolutely have to, right? Just kind of a general principle in many other positions, you know. If there's another way to deal with knight c5, let's deal with that in another way, right? Are there other matches in this event or just a one-off heads up? The Great Denton. This is the only match that we're gonna be witnessing. Hopefully, if you guys like this, just leave comments in the chat. Tell us if you guys like it, and definitely your voices will be heard. And if you guys are overwhelmingly positive English, then yeah, definitely we'll run some more ladder legends. Rook c8 to meet knight c5 with bishop a8. I like this idea. I do like this idea. The main problem with this idea is, first of all, the engine doesn't like it. But second, you do not do anything to stop knight e4, right? I guess Engine still doesn't think that knight e4 is that dangerous. I'm always looking at these squares, but I guess they're covered for now. Man, it's just one bad check away from, you know, Black's king just being in grave danger. I guess the engine really dislikes this because bishop a6. Yeah, just get that free extra pawn. There's tension there as well, so I guess that's the reason why. And also, and think about this fact, you're playing rook c8, but ooh, knight b4. Okay, knight b4 was played. A very interesting move. So similar to knight e7, but with the intention of taking this this bishop away. So that's interesting. Yeah, basically saying, you know what, I'm gonna make sure my king is well or easier to guard. And how is it gonna be easier to guard? Well, if there are less pieces on the board, it's easier to guard. Perfect logic, right? But I just wanted to mention rook c8. Yes, in the Sicilian you place it on the c file, but it's not going to do anything right now. We don't want to place the rook on c8. This is the type of game where the value, the value of your moves is really high, right? Like one wrong move and you're losing the game. So you definitely don't want to make moves that are not according to the dynamics of the position. So knight b4, I like it in terms of exactly what I said, dynamics, right? You're trying to do something. Engine like knight e7 slightly more because the knight is more of a defensive piece, which makes a lot of sense. I guess knight b4, the idea is it's not going to be defensive because we're going to get rid of an attacker, which also logically makes sense. My only concern is that, by the way, just FYI, we're not caring about the a2 pawn. Please do not think that we're caring about the a2 pawn. My only concern is that, again, this is why chess is so complex. If you take here, I'll be taking queen takes d3. I'll be gaining from the perspective of I'm developing my pieces while you're spending 2 tempos getting rid of my pieces. My other concern for this knight is it could get sidelined. It's, you know, if you're not able to capture my bishop, I'm not saying right now, but let's say I play bishop e2, something like that, where I will trade it for this guy. This could get sidelined. I mean, I guess obviously it's going to d5. So maybe it's not going to get sidelined. So yeah, I guess this makes a lot of sense. I'm curious to see what the engine thinks. It thinks maybe it was slightly better to play knight e7, but it kind of values them around the same. It thinks that the bishop needs to go to d5, which is interesting. And maybe that's why the knight gets a little bit sidelined on b4, because it's not going to be able to go to that square, because apparently the bishop needs to go there. I thought the bishop was going to be going to c6, but I guess that's not good enough. So it needs to be going to d5 to be very centralized. Maybe also reinforce the e6 pawn, so you know you're always safe against f5. Wow, very crazy position, guys. Let's go back to the live board. Let me also catch up on all the comments. Once again, I'm so sorry. Looks much easier to play that position for white. Yes, it does. Indeed, it does. Black has to trade the dark square bishop for the knight. I wouldn't be surprised if it's almost losing for black. Timothy, yes, but in one of those lines, that was the best option, which did shock me as well. This is first edition. That's right, hey, Sergio. I don't really play these positions, so I understand very little. Lupar, don't worry. Same, okay? I don't play these positions either. The only reason I'm able to sort of somewhat comprehend is basically it's all about tempos. It's all about dynamicism. It's all about what trades do you want to make. It's all about what are you doing faster than your opponent. So it's all tempo, right? So with knight c5, we're tempoing this guy, right? And this is something that I already kind of alluded to, but here, obviously, rook takes b7, intermediate move, and then queen takes d3 is going to happen with another tempo. If you play queen takes d3, already you're still winning because you're double attacking. That's one of the drawbacks of knight b4. If you're trying to go for knight takes d3, in some lines, I will have the sort of immediate tempo in the position. Now, you do want to deal with this guy. Bishop c6 does make a lot of sense to me because we're, keeping this pawn safe. We're keeping the square open for the knight. But apparently knight e4, and again, this is exactly what I was alluding to. Knight takes d3. This is, now knight takes c3 happens, and again, your knight is under tempo. So actually, you're losing your knight because all the squares are actually covered. So another reason, I guess, why the engine was so critical about knight e7 being the better move, playing it a little bit safer. But okay, obviously bishop d5 probably will be played, and here the difference being that this guy is protected. So if knight takes d3, knight takes c3, this guy's hanging, but now cd3, not queen takes d3, cd3. That is fascinating. I guess we're fixing our pawn structure this way. We're also threatening rook c1. Wow, the more you know. The more you know. Yeah, just welcome to chaos. It all revolves around the king safety. I'm going to go back to it again and again. It's all about the king safety. This king, long-term, again, has problems. This king, easy solution, rook f2, cover the weak pawn against any sort of attacks. So, yeah. Let's see if I hear Seems question. Yes, I think so. I think so. Per the engine, it thinks it's better. What's the reward for the winner of the tournament? Bragging rights, of course. No, but of course, the win is not just bragging rights, but maybe we can make this into a best 2 out of 3, right? And then, yeah, we haven't thought about what the winner wins. I think our intention with this was the audience wins by gaining all this fascinating chess that we get to witness firsthand. I guess a lesson. That's a good guess. Hello, white is quite winning. Hello, yes, white does look like they're winning, but I mean, you never know what's gonna happen in these positions. Definitely, still complex. But I will say one thing: Grandmaster Oleksiyenko has 32 minutes, while Grandmaster Vetoshko has 26. Now I know it's not a big difference. But the less time they are, imagine this is 6 minutes versus 12 minutes. Now it starts actually mattering, right? Imagine it's 2 minutes versus if I could do math, 8 minutes, right? Then it starts mattering a lot more. So currently okay, still on track. But if I was Grandmaster Vetoshko, I'll think about playing a little bit faster here. Although I don't blame him, the position is very complex. Is there going to be multiple games in the match today or just a single game? Just a single game. Russell Stinson. Yes, just one game. But again, if you guys like it, leave the likes, leave the good feedback, and more Ladder Legends will pop up. Water. It's good for drinking. Let's go ahead and think about the position, guys. What do we feel like is going to happen? Let's try to predict those next few moves. Other than bishop d5 and bishop c6, I don't really think there's any other candidate moves. We already talked about knight d3 being absolutely lost. There's no world in which you play rook b8. You don't want to do that trade. So, yeah, I guess you're just comparing between bishop c6 and bishop d5. And the main difference is here, the engine thinks you're absolutely losing. It thinks here you still have chances. So you definitely want to like experiment. You don't want to just say, okay, the engine tells me I'm losing here and I'm losing. Try to understand why. Even in your own games, after you review them, go ahead and make sure you understand why exactly is the engine saying these moves. So there's the difference. We already identified it. So it is quite elementary, Watson. It is quite elementary. So for you see, bishop c6 does not allow queen c6. So after 94, the only other way that you can really put tension on the g2 pawn, and really it's rook g8. But as we already mentioned, rook f2 is there to guard it. And how do you deal with this knight? Again, it's extremely hard to deal with this knight. Not to mention knight c3 in some lines is going to be crucial, as right now it's being attacked. And also, your bishop is stuck to protecting the knight on b4. But when you play bishop d5, the difference is after 94, queen c6, your queen is still covering this guy. But also, you're making it more annoying for the opponent to say, all right, make a decision. Where are you going? Are you going to play knight takes c3, which is quite shocking that it works. There is a check, maybe on c5. King will have to go back, and then the knight is free to take on d3. There's a few dangerous moments, but I guess it all works out. It's all good when it's all good, right? But the main problem for white here is, yeah, how do you defend the knight? The engine suggesting queen f3. That is crazy. It runs into f5, but I guess there's queen h5 check, so that will remove the pin. Quite a fascinating position. Yeah, there's queen h5 check. But it doesn't end here because the king's actually relatively safe on d8. We don't got any bishop g5. We don't got any bishop b6 checks. I mean, this is just pure cinema, no? Knight takes c3, we have to play. Queen takes c3. And then I guess there's still attacks here. But I guess we still have rook f2. I'm inclined to think rook f2 is great because I get bishop d2 ideas. But okay, my bishop's also hanging. But if you take it, then I get bishop b6 checks. What? Rook f2 looks really good to me, no? Take, and then, yeah, I get this guy. But the engine thinks that's not the best. Wow. Yeah, obviously not take, because we should be in a really good spot here. But I guess the king survives, yeah? Bishop c6 is there. Wow. Wow, the more you know. The more you know. I mean, okay, I would kind of be surprised if we get here, but maybe we would. And again, all of these things are not possible with bishop c6 here. You just don't have a way to fight against the knight other than just giving up your bishop, which is definitely something the engine does not want to do, because it thinks this position, well, if you go bishop d3, I'll go knight d3. So if you have to go bishop f3, I'm inclined to think that, yeah, maybe black can survive. The whole reason why black was never able to castle this way is because the bishop was placed on d3, attacking the weak h7 pawn. But here, this is one of those trust me, I'm an engineer type situations. It definitely works. King h8, bishop g7, your king survives. So, you know, obviously after moving the knight first. But yeah, the king here definitely survives, no? But here it would not survive. But there's knight takes d3, so I guess there's going to be possibilities for you to castle. Oh man, what a crazy position. But okay, I mean, the engine wants to play f5? What? What? Oh my goodness. It just thinks there's a checkmate already. If I take, check. Check. Not bishop g5. Why not bishop g5? King c8. Okay, queen e4. There's going to be many tempos. The trigonometry on this is pretty crazy. English, fascinating language. Okay, I don't think we're going to see that. But maybe we will. Maybe we will. Okay. What a crazy move, f5. I mean, bishop f3 is a logical move. You do save the two bishops. And long term, you're just in a better position. But yeah, nowhere near as exciting as f5 going for the checkmates. Well, what a crazy stuff. Let me catch up on all the comments, guys. Queen h5, is queen h5 a good idea for white, preventing d6 due to knight takes c6? Yes, that is a great idea. That is a great idea, yes. Usually when there's a missing g-pawn, by placing your queen on h5, if there's no knight on f6, obviously, your queen's actually extremely hard to be attacked. So yeah, that is a logical idea, especially supported by f5, trying to weaken the e6 pawn. Yeah, that's a great idea. What a move, I'm surprised. Amazing. Yes, are we talking about f5? I think so. If we are, then yes. I think it's very unusual. I think it's very unusually positioned. It's a very unusual position, and Mihailo have to make hard decisions. He knows good typical plans and reactions. I play Taimanov or Polson. And it's a very difficult position with knight b3. Usually, when white plays bishop d3, f4, or queen e2, black plays d6, bishop b7, h5. This position is very original. Yes, Bishop Blanca. It is a very original position indeed. And what is this username? Competitive Muffinler, classic Sicilian center sack. Yeah, classic Sicilian center sack. Yeah. Ooh, Grandmaster Vetoshko chose bishop c6. Oh, guys, I don't think it's gonna end well. After 94. After 94, you're gonna have to give up your light square bishop. You're gonna have to do that. Because basically after rook g8, sure, you know, I can't take because there's rook g2, I lose. But I play rook f2. That's the move that I alluded to so long ago. And now you can't cover this bishop because you can't move the bishop because the knight's hanging. If you play bishop d5 now, that's a waste of a tempo. One tempo difference makes the entire position look completely different. Now the engine just says, don't panic, a3. Knight c6 will run into knight c3, so you got to go knight a2, and this knight is oddly trapped on the other side of the board. Such a fascinating game. So yes, maybe that was Grandmaster Vetoshko's idea, but engine just says a3, no problems. Engine just does a3, I win. That's crazy. Bishop e4, I mean, okay, this one at least there's no piece sack now, yeah? There's no piece sack because there's rook g6. That's the main difference. In the other line, there was no rook g6. So here you will definitely have to play bishop f3. Again, if you play bishop d3, this is exactly what black wants to do, trade. But even here, it just says it's winning. What? Oh, we're very fast in switching the side of attack. Now the attack becomes one on the queen side due to the more developed pieces. So yeah, this is definitely fascinating to watch for. I mean, okay, black, even with bishop f3, I don't think black survives this position. I mean, king is absolutely safe for white. Black has some pressure, but the king's still wide in the open. f5 will be a move that happens, breaking the center, opening up more diagonals towards the enemy king. This is looking horrible. So I don't know exactly what Grandmaster Vetoshko's idea was, and he did invest a lot of time on this move. He has 20 minutes, and Grandmaster Oleksiyenko has 29, so we'll see what happens. Why not bishop e4 instead of 94? I want to force exchange of bishops. That's a good question. Let's turn off the engine to ask ourselves why not that. Okay. My guess, if I can have an educated guess, is if bishop e4 knight e4, you are threatening knight d6. I will give you that. But is it the end of the world? It does look like the end of the world. No, knight takes c3, bishop d4. It does very much look like the end of the world. So maybe here it's all about the fact that I am not forced to take, and I can make an improving move for black in the meantime. The question is, what is a good improving move? Yeah, that will be a good moment to think about that. Yeah, maybe d5 now is actually not too bad, right? f5 might still work, but I doubt it. I doubt it now. It might not work. If you go here, I'm glad to take. That's kind of what I've been trying to do. But even this looks like really nice for white. I mean, I get a tempo, I get f5. Okay, but now there's e5, so maybe that's the difference. Yeah, maybe you go back and, okay, somehow I have e5 and I blocked everything. I get f6. Man, oh man, what is happening? Yeah, it's a good question. Bishop e4. This looks extremely unpleasant for black. I mean, you got to face knight d6. That's not an easy threat. But maybe just knight d5. Yeah, maybe that's the big deal. Knight d5 stops this. This is covered because there's knight c3 tempo. So, but then, yeah, queen d4, you're going to run into knight e2, so don't do that. So, yeah, maybe that's the big deal. But even this position, I'm assuming the engine's going to say, okay, maybe black is just better here, but even this one is not that clear. But yeah, if I have to assume, it's this, and knight d5. So bishop e4, knight e4, and knight d5. That's my guess over here as to why bishop e4 is maybe not the preferred choice by the engine. But let's see how wrong we are. So knight d5 just immediately, yeah? So basically saying, you don't need to trade the bishops, homie, because there's bishop c5. Yeah, that makes actually a lot of sense. Don't trade them, and just go knight d5, so the pieces are a little bit in each other's way. Yeah, that actually makes a lot of sense. Yeah, I like that a lot. Our move d5 was outlandish, and yeah, doesn't lead to any improvements. Even bishop d3 looked okay-ish for white after this. Yeah, this looked really good still. But of course, yeah, bishop f3, probably keeping it safe. Yeah, okay, bishop e4. I mean, that is actually a good move to consider. That's a good alternative. It does force knight d5. Yeah, that's a great question. Yeah, d6 here. So after bishop e4, d6. But d6 is never the move you want to play. Yeah, because we already discussed this. Kind of weakens the structure. Well, rook b3 tempo. I guess that is another trick that you're trying to do. Yeah. The only reason here rook b3 doesn't accomplish anything is knight d5. You don't have time to take the knight on d5, which will then weaken the bishop on c3, obviously, leave it unprotected. So, yeah, again, it's all about tempos. It's all about dynamicism. It's all about fast action. 94 was played by Grandmaster Oleksiyenko. And so 7 minutes time advantage for Grandmaster Oleksiyenko. I am mentioning this right now so that later when we get into the time scramble, or if we do get into time scramble, we do appreciate the fact that, yeah, it happened right about here. A couple moves ago is where the time disparity occurred, and it might, if it carries over into the time trouble situation, then obviously Grandmaster Oleksiyenko is going to have the advantage there. Yeah, this is way too complex for my taste. Yes, Russell Stinson. Yes, definitely complex. Welcome to Sicilian. Welcome to Sicilian. The world of Sicilian. You can see both players there just absolutely thinking about the position, what's happening. All the crazy lines that you gotta probably calculate, and I can't even imagine. Let me take a little bit of, and we saw some snap of the hands there by Grandmaster Volodymyr. Maybe he's not happy with a line that he had originally planned, but maybe realized in this position that it's no longer that good. Let me take a little bit of a sip, guys. 1 second. Does white ever want to play bishop c5 to set up knight d6? Yes, yes. That was one of the options that we discussed with bishop e4. Yeah, bishop takes e4, knight takes e4, knight d5. Bishop c5 was what the engine was hoping to do with knight d6 checks, basically making sure that the king is forever weak. So definitely this is, I mean, right now there's a few threats. First of all, the bishop. Second, rook b3. Third, bishop c5. I guess rook b3, knight d5. This is already a threat in and of itself. So yeah, rook g8, rook f2 will just dodge the threat on g2, and then now that frees up the knight to take the bishop on c3. So definitely feels like, I mean, it definitely feels like white's in control here. So I would not be shocked if, yeah, Grandmaster Volodymyr just goes ahead and takes this right away first time. But it's hard to say. This one does allow you to put pressure, but it does not allow you to castle, right? But if you do takes d5, let's pretend that f5 is not the move that Grandmaster Oleksiyenko plays. Here, at least you have the freedom of castling, right? So somewhat getting your king to safety, right? Somewhat. King h8, moving the king. Just a little bit safer in the corner. And yeah, same thing here. Bishop f3, you do get to castle. So maybe that's the lines that he's comparing in his mind. He's probably thinking, okay, do I want to play rook g8 now, but I forego castling rights? But at least I get an active rook, which I guess, how active is it if there's rook f2? Maybe not that active. And maybe that's what he's thinking. He's thinking, okay, I can probably just leave the rook there and have the ability to castle later. So bishop e4, d5 looks like the most logical continuation in that case. But I mean, okay, rook g8 makes sense. You know, you still want to keep playing fighting chess. But really, it's hard to see how. You know, how are we playing fighting chess here? It's really, really hard, yeah? Yeah, it's extremely hard to think how black is playing fighting chess. Please, white, it's very easy to see that. Long term, as I mentioned earlier, king is just weak, so you just keep putting pressure. In the rook g8 variation, can black just try to ditch a bit of material with rook takes g2, king takes g2, f5, and pin and win the knight just for counterplay? So yeah, rook g8, rook f2, but I'm always taking rook takes g2, right? That's the biggest problem. Oh, yeah, playing some f5. Oh, okay, I get what you're saying. Yeah. Queen h5, check. I guess knight c3 is still okay, because, yeah, I still have rook takes g2. So, yeah, bishop takes g2, I have queen h5, check. King goes there, I have queen f7. Wow, okay. Rook is uncomfortable there. Yep, welcome to modern chess. But, okay, this is not too hard to spot that f5 does basically lose on the spot, because this is still covered. So even if I just did all that, like, imagine I never had this check, I'm still up an extra piece. Like, I'm still up an extra piece, so I should still be winning. So yeah, just not enough time for black to do that. You don't have the time to move the bishop. This guy's hanging. So yeah, the whole construction is basically falling apart. And again, that's why it was so critical to play bishop d5. So the whole construction does not fail, and you still deal with the knight on e4. By leaving your d5 bishop, apparently that's more important than giving up your dark square bishop rather than giving up your light square bishop. It's more important to keep the light square bishop alive, which is kind of counterintuitive, because here all the dark squares are weak, and you would assume that having a dark square bishop is going to help you a lot more. But you do have more counter chances by leaving the light square bishop alive on the board. While here, you're going to have to part ways with it. This guy's not able to attack the king any ways. And then white's focus changes from trying to attack on the dark squares. Now it's going to be attack on the light squares with f5. So, or immediately f5, obviously. So, yeah, chess is quite fascinating like that. With these last moves, obviously white's trying to attack dark squares with some bishop c5 ideas. And after the trades, then suddenly white's attacking the light squares. So, yeah, funny how that works out. Very tough situation, and 14 minutes on the clock. Time is just running out. What about h5, h6 push ideas for black? Too slow, yeah? As Magnus says, too weak, too slow, yeah? No, I'm kidding. But it is too slow, right? It would be ideal if we can do that. But maybe this pawn already needed to be on h4, right? For us to have successful attacking chances. Here it's just, tempo on this bishop. How do you react? Okay. Right now, h5, I go yeah, rook b3 is good, but I was going to play f5. Just let me break through the center, yeah? h4, I still have bishop h5, right? So, yeah, basically like take and bishop h5. So, basically brute forcing my way into your position. So, yeah, it's too slow. It's too slow. Even if we include, let's go ahead and include rook g8 because this one makes a lot more sense. But h5 is just a free pawn. Yeah, it's just a free pawn. So just never able to play that whatsoever. Gotham Chess or Gukesh? Interesting question. I mean, one is current world champion, the other one's not. Yeah. Hello. Yes. Please replay. Which part? Which line do I need to replay? Let's see. 13 minutes. Time is ticking away slowly but surely. I don't know. Yeah, definitely. Maybe Grandmaster Volodymyr just realized how tough his position is, and we can see he's just fully focused in on the position. It's gonna be extremely hard to deal with this. The best solution is just to do this and hope f5 is not spotted. After f5, it's just kind of game over. White's able to just brute force their way into black's position. Queen e5 somewhat trying to... Yeah, I mean, okay, it's not quite over because there needs to be a little bit of precision. Queen f3, obviously that's why queen e5 was played. So there's no queen h5, but yeah, okay, queen f7. The infiltration is going to happen. And you're going to have to long castle. This is something we alluded to before. But you're long castling into a already open file. And yeah, plenty of danger still. So yeah, this still seems very losing for black. But okay, you're only one move away. Like if I have to play queen e2, imagine I have to play queen e2. You're surviving because you get to trade a pair of rooks. So apparently only this line is what's winning for white. This very narrow line of queen f3, right? There doesn't seem to be anything else, actually. So I wouldn't be shocked if we see bishop f3. Like, I would assume this is easier to play, purely because, like, you're just getting a normal advantage of long-term this king is still weak. You got two bishops advantage. Got nothing to complain about in this position, in my opinion. But, of course, f5, the more precise move, but also the more demanding move. You gotta have to find all the right moves if you play f5. One wrong move, and, yeah, it's just not gonna work out for you. So yeah. Crazy idea, but what about knight takes a2 in the current position to protect the bishop and save the knight? Why not rook f3 and rook g3 instead of rook f2 to protect g2? Ferrosaurus, that's a good question. And basically, it comes back to time, yeah? This is wasting time, while this one is not wasting time, right? With this one, you're still not addressing the full concern of the situation. Because, like, imagine black just gives a free move. Like, just imagine I play a free move. When you play knight c3, bishop takes f3, queen takes f3, as long as my rook's covered, and it's not hanging, right, because I was attacking your queen here, as long as my rook's not hanging, I can take queen takes c3. And again, it's only losing because my rook's hanging. So based on that logic, if I just move my rook, knowing that you want to take my bishop, now when we speedrun to the variation, your queen's hit, you play queen f3, queen c3, now you can see my rook's not hanging, and I am up on exchange. And yeah, it's about equal still because obviously the king is very weak, but okay, definitely prefer black now because white's attack is kind of nowhere near the same value as it was before. So yeah, again, all about timing. In dynamic play, you want to be quick, to the point. And speaking of quick, yeah, Grandmaster Vetoshko had to be quick and had to choose a move. And he chooses 95, but oh boy, the engine absolutely hates this move. Bishop c5 is going to put Kearns in the position. Oh boy. And then Russell Stinson, yeah, just to answer your question, knight takes a2, defends the bishop, yes, but apparently bishop b6 is the big deal. The problem is you do not want to concede the d6 square, right? Like you can't even go to c8 or b7 because you're going to walk into a forky fork, so that's not great. So that's why you got to go queen b8, but that's in line with the rook. So now bishop c5 gets another tempo. And finally, I jump knight d6. And once I've done this, you're basically lost. That's it. That's game over. King f8, I get this beautiful check. I win the queen. So other moves are winning. And then king d8, I win this guy over here on h8. So still winning for whites, excuse me. So yeah, definitely tough. But knight d5 was played, and oh boy, after bishop c5, it is just curtains. How do you stop knight d6? You can't. You can't stop knight d6. This is it. There's no way to do that, right? I mean, basically, you can't go king f8 anytime knight d6 happens. So you're going to have to go king d8, but then this pawn's hanging. Yeah, this is kind of curtains. Rook f3, f5, since there's no queen h5. Yeah, that was, earlier, yeah, in the rook g8 line. Yeah, I mean, that was also a possibility, but no need for f5, right? Knight takes c3. Remember, the rook on a8 was hanging, so we don't want to do that, right? That's why rook b8 was so important. But over here, yeah, Grandmaster Vetoshko's position is objectively losing, but also on time. He only has 10 minutes and 30 seconds. And Grandmaster Mihailo just needs to find a few correct moves. Bishop c5. I mean, how do you deal with that? I don't even see how you stop knight d6. You just have to mitigate it. Yeah, you just gotta go rook g8. Hope for the best. Hope you have some. Maybe this is the idea. Yeah. Whoa! Talk about some tricks. Oh my goodness. Yeah, rook takes g2 would be nice if you were not already behind so much material, right? Like, this is a nice double check, winning the queen over here. But yeah, you're down too much material, so... Wow, okay, if we see this line, I'll be quite impressed. Sack a queen, wow. And then counterattack. Oh boy, oh boy. I mean, this is great. Maybe this was the idea, yeah? But okay, White's not obligated to play that. What if I just go back to my rook f2 move, yeah? What if I just go back to my rook f2 move? Yeah, it's a fancy idea. Yeah, okay. I think at least we understood how Black responds. Because yeah, if you go king d8, I mean, it's just game over. There's just another check. I can go back with another check. It's just not possible for Black to survive this position, you know? Your king just gets tossed around for no reason, you know? And now White can just chill for a moment, but... Okay, we at least understand the idea as queen takes d6 now, but okay, White could first play rook f2, and then any move you play, then I play knight d6. So yeah, that's probably what Grandmaster Vetoshko spent so much time calculating. Yeah, probably making sure that, okay, I can sack my queen, I get some counterplay, and to be honest, it is a quite impressive counterplay. If queen e2, then you go knight g2. Many checkmate threats, or many threats to win back your queen are possible. So yeah, queen f3 has to be played apparently, and I guess material is equal. Yeah, and you cannot take because king h1 will mean that your knight and your rook are hanging. And if you take with the knight, then the knight gets trapped. It does not get trapped. I thought rook g3, but I guess the knight doesn't get trapped. Yeah, the knight escapes. So bishop e4. Poof. Check, and there's nothing after that check. And if knight h4, we can... Oh, we don't dodge it. We just go king h1. Okay, some pretty crazy calculations. Checkmate is on the horizon. Okay, but all that being said, yeah, and basically, I don't think we're going to see that line. We're going to see rook f2 if we ever get to this position. So I think after this, you're not able to stop knight d6, and that's going to be pretty brutally hard to defend. If pieces get traded, does the endgame favor either player? Do you study the endgames that come up from your middle games? Yeah, that's a great question. Essentially, the TLDR answer is it depends, but it depends on the position. But here, a good thought process is, what if queens are not present on the board? Who's going to benefit if queens are not present on the board? And then the way you answer that is basically, without queens on the board, king safety is less of a concern. What's more of a concern is the pawn structure and where the pieces are placed. So based on this position alone, I would still tend to think that even without queens on the board, king safety will be somewhat important. So Black will still have to find safety for their king. But mainly the pawn structure is just going to be much better or about the same. Both sides will have 3 pawn islands. So maybe it will be just about equal, that endgame. It will not benefit anybody necessarily. Tend to prefer maybe Black, because without queens, the king is safer. But okay, definitely we are talking about this position where queens are still present. Yeah, it's definitely White who's managing to win. But yeah, I don't think we're going to see any queen trades. Now's the moment to play rook g8. I mean, that's the only chance that you have to sort of tactically stop knight d6 by having queen takes d6. But yeah, bishop c5, rook c8, rook f2, knight takes f4, anything. So rook g8, not rook c8. Hopefully that answered the question before for the end games. Rook g8, yeah. And then you said rook f2, knight takes f4, anything. But don't you run into bishop d6? Oh, I guess I do see there's some knight h3 stuff. So knight d6 is what wants to be played by the engine. Yeah, and again we run into the same problem. I could just pester you around with checks. Yeah, just give you a few checks. I've won a pawn, and then just hide my king on f1. That's actually brilliant. Yeah, my king is actually fully safe. I'm up an extra piece. I got nothing to worry about. Yeah, bishop d6, it's nice, but it's not as forcing as knight d6. Yeah, it runs into knight h3. That's a big problem. And then there's another tempo. So that's why knight d6 is completely winning. But rook takes f4, queen takes f4. Yeah, that one is losing for white. So only one move, but it's not a hard move to spot. Yeah, yeah, you definitely don't play there because still knight h3 exists. So yeah. But if not, yeah, okay, if not rook f2, g3, we kind of talked about this move. It's not great because it opens up your diagonal. So yeah, rook g8 was played, so we do see that is the updated board. And yeah, we should probably see rook f2. I mean, that's kind of the only move, right? There's no other move. Surely you don't play queen f3. Surely no queen f3. I mean, it is a possible move because it, makes sure that f4 is protected, but surely that's not the idea, and surely rook f2 is played. We'll see what the main move, what the move that Grandmaster Oleksiyenko is going to choose. But yeah, between queen f3 and rook f2, it just looks more logical to go rook f2. But okay, you do have to calculate knight f4. It's a few lines. Queen f3. The benefit of that is you're overprotecting f4. So I mean, in a way, that also is not bad. You still get the knight d6 stuff. The only unfortunate thing is your queen could be in danger sometimes. So that's why I'm kind of against queen f3. Just on a basic principle, it does place your queen on an x-ray that you don't want to deal with, right? So yeah, I think that's why we're going to see rook f2. But okay, Grandmaster Oleksiyenko has 21 minutes. The time gap has increased. 21 versus 9. It's not looking great for Grandmaster Vetoshko. At least if he had a better position in less time, then we can sort of understand. But having the worst position and less time is not a fun thing. It's not a fun combination because it feels like you're on the brink of two things. A, you don't have time to think, but B, your position, just because you don't have time to think, is going to keep getting worse and worse, or you have to sacrifice spending a lot of time on certain variations and just playing a little bit of a hope chess, just hoping it all works out. So you definitely don't want to see that. So now's the time to really make sure that you don't go anywhere below 5 minutes at least. Yeah. Queen f3, knight f6 looks interesting. Yeah, queen f6, knight f3 looks queen f3, knight f6 looks interesting. Yeah, knight takes f6 is a check. Yeah, but that obviously allows this all to happen. Yeah, bishop takes f6. What's going to be the move here for white? Bishop b6. Make sure that the bishop is covered, so that after bishop e4, this is not hanging. And then when this queen moves, actually, wow, it's still not over. Queen b7, there's knight d6. Queen c8, knight d6, but it's not over. It takes, and you take this queen. And if I take, you take, and I just get an extra pawn. That's kind of boring. Bishop c5 apparently slightly better. Save the knight. Ooh, force the king to step in front of the rook. Wow, that's pretty cool. Double attack. Yeah, a lot of crazy variations there. A lot of crazy variations for sure. I mean, okay, the more I look at queen f3, okay, maybe it makes sense, but just on a general principle, rook f2 is the move that you definitely should play. Yeah. All right, let's see. Anything else we can think about? Yeah, we already talked about g3. You never want to play these moves. Never, ever, ever, ever. You don't want to play these moves. Opens up the king too much. This king now becomes extremely weak. Anything else on the horizon? Doesn't seem likely, right? Bishop d6, you don't want to play because you want to play knight d6, right? Bishop d6 just allows this check, which is not great. And we already talked about knight d6 not working because of the queen sack and this crazy attack on g2 and on d1. So that's quite wild indeed. I know it's easy for us to look in this position and be like, oh yeah, white's winning. But the more we digest it, the more we realize it's only these two moves that win. And again, it's kind of a marginal win, right? Like rook f2, you need to find a lot of other moves followed up afterwards. Or queen f3, you need to find a lot of other moves that are winning one after the other. So it's definitely a complex game and a complex battle, and that's kind of what we alluded to in the beginning when I interviewed both grandmasters, that there's going to be a fight with a lot of calculation, a lot of dynamics, and it's just unfortunate here for Grandmaster Vetoshko that Grandmaster Oleksiyenko's threats are easier and his position is easier to defend. That's, I think, the main thing. With a safer king, that it's easier to defend, you're just going to have an easier time playing the position. So, yeah. Queen e2. But Queen e2 doesn't solve the deal of knight takes f4, right? That's the main difference between these two. Yeah, that one solves the deal of knight takes f4. But this one doesn't solve the deal of knight takes f4. So that's quite unfortunate there. So yeah, it really just comes down to these two moves. And we can see Grandmaster Mihailo just thinking there, not sure what he's going to do. He's maybe still contemplating which move to go for. Quite fascinating indeed. And I want to make sure I'm not slouching as the players are, so I'm going to pull my chair in and strain my back. This is your friendly reminder to strain your back, guys. Don't slouch like me. Don't do as I do. Do as I say. Rook f2. Again, afterwards. I guess we haven't considered what black could do in this position, but I mean, knight d6 is such an annoying threat that I don't even know where to start. I mean, it's a fun line to lone castle and run into knight d6 and have to give up your queen. That'll be quite fascinating. But, okay, the engine says queen a5. I mean, I guess it makes sense to put some pressure on the bishop. I wouldn't even know where to start from this position for black. I mean, clearly, knight d6 still offsets your king, and you still got to go this way. You can't go this way because you're going to run into all the checks, and your queen's hanging. So I could still very much win a pawn and just, like, repeat the position. That's kind of annoying, honestly. Okay, maybe this king can go... But king c8 doesn't change anything. And then king c7 allows this bishop to give a check. And now this guy's going to reroute this way. I mean, okay... Honestly, everything seems winning for white, no? This looks completely winning. Yeah, it's really rough. Really, really rough. Really, really rough if rook f2 is played. But currently we don't have a move. And Grandmaster Oleksiyenko is spending his extra time wisely. But I will say, if he gets down to the 10-minute mark, it's time to make a move. It will be time to make a move. If you kind of if you get equal on times... Yeah, it could backfire on you. You don't want to get into a time scramble. You definitely want to keep your time advantage. King d8. Emil, do you have a channel, YouTube, Twitch, or usually works in Lichess commentator? That is my very first time working as a Lichess commentator, so I should thank the Lichess team. Thank you so much. And yes, I do have a Twitch and YouTube. You can find me at The Heart of Chess for both YouTube and Twitch. It's just one word. The Heart of Chess. And Queen f3 was chosen by Grandmaster Oleksiyenko. Very interesting. So not the top level move Rook f2 as we have been discussing, but Queen f3. Very fascinating. So this does give some chances to Grandmaster Vetoshko to survive. Rook f2 was absolute game over. That was it. There was nothing you could do. You know, there's no way you stop knight d6. But Queen f3, this is the line that we were talking about. Knight f6. Crazy lines. You know, you could give a check, but I'm going to move my king. Now your queen's hanging. Now g2 is also hanging. That's quite fascinating. So your only move is actually bishop b6 because there's also a threat. Bishop takes e4 and your bishop's hanging once your knight is taken away. So absolute craziness, yes. Megalodon said you can find Emil streams at, yes, thank you so much. Thank you for plugging me so I don't have to do that. I appreciate that. Good to see you as well. King d8 just on 96 doesn't come with a check. Oh, in the previous position, Russell. Yeah. But okay, like I still could play knight d6. Oh wait, actually, maybe I need to be a little bit careful. Yeah. Okay, maybe I need to be a little bit careful. Yeah, because maybe there's some. Oh, but knight f5. Yeah, actually saves the f7 pawn. I guess this doesn't work yet. Yeah, I can just take it and escape. Yeah. I can just escape that way. Yeah, apparently queen h5. Get the queen to h4. Just start getting the pawns as well. But okay, this is the position we have to focus, so let's focus on that one. Knight f6, the move we anticipate happening. f5 though is also a crazy move, but queen h5, excuse me, is the reason why this doesn't work. And yeah, like the knight is able to give another. Whoa, this is draw now? How is this a draw? Ooh, yeah. Yeah. Oh my goodness. There's a lot of craziness. Yeah. Let's now make sure to take first. Yeah, okay. Now it doesn't work because there's no check. Slight difference, but a major difference in the result. Move order matters. Remember, guys, move order matters. F5, okay. We talked about that. Knight F6, the other move. What's another move that black could play? Knight F4, we already talked about. Queen F4 is there. Not going to work. What is there, actually? Rook G6 to stop any Queen H5 checks. But that's too slow. That's really slow. Remember, we talked about dynamicism. You got to be fast. Yeah, that doesn't stop the Knight D6 problem. You got to go. You got to go. Now or never. You got to go Knight F6. It's now or never. And Bishop B6, yeah, it looks ugly, but you got to do it. You got to do what you got to do sometimes. Yeah, this entire line might be what the game leads into, and white's going to be just up on exchange after all that, all those variations. Yeah, Bishop A5 to cover B6 instead of Knight C3. But that still doesn't address this problem, yeah? It's just so annoying because I basically give you a few checks because I got an extra pawn due to that. And now I just need to address the big elephant in the room by just playing Bishop E4. And all is well when all is well, yeah? You don't have any fancy tempos. Like this one is looking like a fancy tempo. But yeah, welcome to how to defend 101. Queen F2. Give up the exchange. Get into the winning position. But also, what about Knight F7? No? That's also winning. Surely that's... But I guess we have to repeat, yeah. So, yeah, I don't have this move because there's Queen A7. Even this is winning. That's... Okay, I guess it doesn't really shock me. Yeah. You can never really take this knight because Queen H5, yeah. This showcases how weak Black's king becomes and how safe White King's is once you tuck it into the corner. Going back to the live board, yeah, I don't really see anything other than Knight F6 here. Yeah, we talked about F5, doesn't work. And Grandmaster Vetoshko really has to make a decision. He has 5 minutes left on the clock, not enough time to really fool around. You know, you can't be calculating these complicated lines. Maybe he sees the entire line that we talked about earlier where, you know, White ends up winning an exchange after all these fancy variations, and maybe he's just unhappy, but okay, sometimes that's the best that your position can do, and you just got to go with it and hope for the best. But yeah, it's not gonna... If this comes down to just one side being up an exchange and queens have been traded, there's no counterplay whatsoever in the position. So it should be kind of one-sided. I'm going to just take into the sip, guys. All right, 4 minutes left. Time to make a move. It's time to make a layup. It is time to make a layup, and let's see. Are we going to get a move by Grandmaster Vetoshko anytime soon? Really? You don't now want to get even lower on the clock. Yes, you get 30-second increment. We should say that. It's not like you're only getting 3 seconds. So you do have the 30 seconds to think for every move, but that's not enough time with the amount of complexity that we have going on in the position. So definitely want to make the move faster. And then again, it's understandable why you'd not want to make a move. It's because things are just not working out in your favor. So yeah. And I have my dog in the background making a lot of noise. He's acting like a cat. And maybe that's what you guys were hearing. Apologies for that. Why not Queen B8 instead of Queen C8 in that line to keep D6 cover? Yeah, but it's on the... sorry, not this one. It's on the X-ray of the rook, right? So... Yeah, rook b3. I thought we were going to have some sort of a fancy bishop move, but I realized we don't really have any fancy bishop moves, yeah? Nowhere really beneficial to move the bishop to. Like bishop c5, it's just repeating the position, right? And there's not an improvement of the bishop going, you know, further back. Definitely not an improvement. So, yeah, I thought we were going to have a fancy move there, but we don't. Engine says rook b3. I mean, I guess so. Yeah, we do see Knight F6 finally played, but 3 minutes left for Grandmaster Vetoshko. And yeah, bishop b6 should be the move that we see. Knight f6 opens up the bishop as diagonal, so you don't want to do that. And knight d6 leads into the problem of your queen is also hanging on f3. And then essentially black's threat right now is bishop takes c4 and then followed up with some queen c5 check. So you want to address the bishop's problem. So that's why you want to move the bishop, because that is the immediate danger. So yeah, I'm assuming we're going to see a bishop b6 move quite soon. But again, Grandmaster Oleksiyenko has more time, and now a lot more time to think. So yeah, the time disparity is now extremely large to where Grandmaster Vetoshko just has to play on seconds. Grandmaster Oleksiyenko can spend a little bit of time thinking and evaluating what's going on in the position before making his decision. So yeah, but how does that white exploit it? Yeah, in this line with the X-ray on the queen. Yeah, white doesn't exploit it, I guess. Yeah, there's no point in moving back. That just repeats the position. Knight f6, we already talked about that. I mean, okay, here there's a difference though. Yeah, I will say that. There's a slight difference. You couldn't play here knight f6 because you're completely losing due to the fact that this comes with check. But when you play bishop b6, you're hitting the queen, and now, you know, this is your safety line. Think about this as your safety line. Like, oh my goodness, if I didn't have any time to think about the position, this is the first thing that I do. Because I just make sure that I remove pieces from the board, and my king's no longer getting checkmated. We know that for a fact after these guys get traded. If they don't, then the bishop gets locked, so it's not able to continue putting pressure on the long diagonal, and I am threatening to trade. So if we do end up trading all of that, I am in a slightly better endgame, purely because of the slightly more active pieces. That's really all it. Pawn islands, black has 4 pawn islands. We have 1, 2, 3, so slightly better on the pawn islands for us. But really, the reason we're slightly better is just more active pieces. But this one could very easily fizzle out to a draw with some obscure rook endgame. But again, this is at least safety line, right? Finding the top move, rook b3, not easy at all. But I mean, I guess logical, because if this happens, then, you know, obviously we dodged all the threats, and now we continue piling up on the opponent's position without having traded the queens. Keeping the queens on the board means we're doing good. And yeah, knight e4, bishop e4. If you want to save this bishop, then you're going to lose on c6. So you have to trade one more time, and yeah, you're just completely losing now due to the fact that, yeah, I mean, this pawn's hanging, but I don't even need to capture it. I was thinking about capturing it just to capture an extra pawn, but I mean, yeah, I give you an open file. I don't need to give you that, but basically almost anything feels winning here. I guess I'll just grab the pawn purely for the reason that I just go back and you cannot improve your position whatsoever. So f5 is going to happen, which, by the way, we could have already done on this move and attack on the f file immediately. So yeah, really rough position. I mean, bishop b6, not a hard move to spot. And with Grandmaster Oleksiyenko thinking for a while, then yeah, I'm sure he's probably going to spot this move. And it's, again, a logical move based on the fact that bishop b4 is a threat on your queen on f3 and your bishop on c5. What happens on bishop b6, queen b4, queen b8, bishop d4? Bishop takes d4 check. That's right. Yeah. It comes with a check. So yeah, the discover attack there doesn't work. And again, we already kind of mentioned it. Other than bishop b6, your only other move is knight d6, which does only fizzle out to a draw because your queen is under pressure. So you cannot afford to move it because rook g2 is there. So yeah, that one will just fizzle out to a draw. It looks fancy because, you know, you're trying to win this one, but obviously you're the one who ends up losing in the battle. The queen's hanging, and then bishop d4 check. Unfortunately, losing your rook there. So yeah, that one is just a perpetual check, so you don't want to jump into it. We should see bishop b6 soon. If not, then yeah, I don't know what else, right? Because again, I mentioned it so many times, bishop b4 is the big deal. Getting lower on the clock though, below 10 minutes for Grandmaster Oleksiyenko. Gotta be very careful there. Take one last sip of my water. And now I will have to become a camel. for I do not have another water bottle with me. Huge blunder, huge oversight on my part as a commentator. But it's okay. We all make mistakes. And the best thing is that we can learn from these mistakes. I guess learning from these mistakes here is the one moment earlier in the game where Grandmaster Vetoshko still had a chance for a fight. He's placing the bishop on d5, not on c6. I think ever since he plays the bishop on c6, it's just been a world of pain. With bishop d5, what the difference was here is that there's queen c6. The entire position, the configuration is still working because you're fighting against the knight on e4. With what happened in the game, you were just never able to fight with this knight on e4. As we saw, a lot of other moves were played and still no progress on getting rid of that knight on e4. Only now with knight f6, but we see bishop b6 was played by Grandmaster Mihailo, hitting the queen. And yeah, we're probably going to see a few quick moves played out. Maybe queen c8 or queen b8. Those are the two only options. I'm assuming Grandmaster Vetoshko is going to choose queen b8 to try to continue the fight as much as possible, as was already mentioned in the comment section. And Draxon said he's back. Draxon, thank you for being here. Thank you for being back. Yes. Okay, let's see. No active feed in the chat, just double checking, making sure if anybody has questions, I am here to try to answer them. 2 minutes on the clock, you have to make a move. It's not easy. Queen c8, you maybe just see that you are losing an exchange, and just to showcase to everybody how you're losing an exchange is, I capture your queen, you capture my queen, and here's where the trick happens. Rook f3 is sufficient enough for an extra pawn, but it's not sufficient for quite a winning position yet. But the tricky move here is bishop c5, check, forcing the king to move either to e8 or g7. If it goes to e8, there's going to be another check, and then I pick up your bishop. So that's why you got to go king g7, which will block your rook. So I can play knight b6. I can ignore because there's no threat on g2 now that your rook's blocked. And now I'm attacking your rook and your bishop on f3. And if you want to save one of them, you're going to have to forego the other one. So yeah, after bishop c6 takes, we are up in exchange and in a completely winning position. So makes sense that if we go back to the live board, makes sense that Grandmaster Vetoshko chooses queen b8, places his queen on the x-ray of the rook. But as we already discussed, no good discovered attacks by the bishop. Bishop c5 will just repeat the position, and it doesn't make sense to place the bishop anywhere else on these squares. On d4, it's going to be a blunder because bishop d4 check happens. And bishop e3 f2, it's just going further back, which you don't want to do. And here I talked about the quote-unquote safety line. You know, if you didn't have much time, you just simplify the position and hope for the best. Maybe you still have a little bit of an advantage. But the engine was quite interested in playing rook b3 and just continuing the pressure, continuing the dynamicism. Basically saying, you know what, if you're trading on e4, you're trading on my terms, which means I'm going to get the advantage on attacking you faster, as opposed to me trading on your terms where now you're the one attacking me. So a small little detail and a small little difference, but it does end up being very different to how the position is going to play out. So yeah, rook b3 keeps the tension, and it's going to be extremely hard to deal with it. The bishop doesn't have a good square. It actually cannot go anywhere. So the only way to save it is to start trading, and we reach this position, which, again, I guess the bishop is not quite hanging as well. We should mention that because there's queen b6 check, but in a real sense, also, I guess it is hanging because if black plays some random move, imagine it was white to move here, all they need to do is just move the bishop, and it's the exact same position, except my rook's on b3. So now I'll take the bishop on c3. I obviously don't take here because there's queen b6 check. So yeah, this actually sets up a nice attack alongside the third rank, and the rook later can be used for rook lifts, either going to g3 dealing with the rook on g8, or just keeping it active where it is on b3. So looks really, really good. And let's go back to the live board though. Rook b3 hasn't not been played yet. The save option at f6 looks pretty decent to me, even though the engine just says it's ±1, and rook b3 does feel like it's going to be game over. Any other moves that white could consider? I mean, obviously we talked about the bishop moving backwards, but that's just kind of repeating the variations. you don't really want to do that. So yeah, the candidate moves by logic are just all about attacking, and that one's a very logical attack. Just hit the bishop. Obviously, you cannot take because bishop takes f3. The pin is quite annoying and frustrating. So yeah, makes perfect sense. And again, if there are any questions in the chat, guys, feel free to chew them in there. Oh, I guess my chat is not updating because I can see over here. Can see, I guess my chat is still not fully updating. I don't know why, but I do see the comment, rook b3 and knight d5, anything for black. But now we go back into the previous line, right? This is essentially where we were. It's just a slight difference, right? Over here, this was the earlier position, right? Where we were trying to play knight d6. Obviously, it doesn't work. Obviously, here we were trying to play knight d6. So knight f6 kind of stopped that knight d6 due to the fact that the bishop is opened up now. But if we continue on with rook b3, knight d5, then after bishop c5, we're back to where we started. The only difference is the rook's on an even better position now. So yeah, that is not going to end up working out quite well. So yeah, I don't think that's going to do anything. Yeah, and then we do have a move, f5. Oh boy, the engine did not like that move. It does make sense if you think about it. It does make sense. It is trying to attack. That, don't get me wrong, this is an attacking move. Fe6 and knight f6 is the idea, but that slipped away all the advantage. Suddenly now the engine says just slightly better for white. Whoa! And the biggest problem, the drawback behind the move. Every time you make a move in chess, you gain something, but you also give up something in return. So here you gave away the square on e5. You were controlling it with the pawn on f4, but now you gave away the square. So queen e5 just brings in the queen, actively attacking the knight on e4. Fe6, you could try to go for some complications. You know, if you take there, there's obviously this and taking. Obviously, there's a checkmate as well. How about we don't miss checkmate in one? But yeah, here, if I take d6, of course, knight f6 is there. But, which is a check, it's an unfortunate check. But if I play queen e6, then after knight f6 check, I can capture it back with the bishop. And you don't have time to recapture on f6 because g2 is hanging. And there's going to be some nasty discovered attacks. So, queen e5 will hold everything in together. But even this looks so crazy. I mean, the queen is just... What is happening here? The queen and king are very badly placed, but so are these ones. All the x-rays, all the pins, everything is just absolute chaos on the board. And the engine just says, guys, that's 0-0. Don't even worry about it. Holy, what is happening in this position? Okay, engine does not want to take first. It wants to play knight f6 check and then deal with this big problem of the powerful c6 bishop. But this is just slightly better. That's it. Just slightly better according to the engine. Crazy. But the only move, I guess, is e takes f6. Whoa, we get another move that's not engine approved, knight g4. It makes perfect sense. This threatens checkmate in a 1. You cannot do anything else but address that problem. And I guess g3 just addresses it as well as you want to. That's crazy. All your threats are now gone. I mean, I was always opposed to that g3 move earlier, but now I guess it makes sense. And there we go. Grandmaster Oleksiyenko plays this move very quickly. I mean, what else do you do? There's nothing else you could do, right? Queen f4, that's not why we played f5. We did not play the trade, but also bishop e5, that's a big problem. So, yeah, you just play g3, and just like that, it's game over now. How do you react? Knight h2, is there any sacks? That doesn't seem likely. I mean, you can sack the whole house, but it's not going to yield any results, I'll tell you that. So, yeah, what do you do now? I mean, fe6, still a threat. fe6, queen f7, still a threat. You still got to address that issue. Yeah, there's nothing. I mean, bishop e4. Knight h2, he goes for it. Knight h2, but I don't think this works. This is a jungle position. It seems like both sides are losing. Yes. My chat is not updating. I don't know why that is the case, guys. I'm so sorry. I'm going to try to reload it, but I don't see it updating. I'm so sorry about that. So I'm not able to keep as well. I have a small little window open here for the chat. I'm gonna do my best to read it, but obviously I have to put my eyes down. I'm so sorry about that. But knight takes h2. I mean, he just goes with it. But okay, I think this was the main idea, but it doesn't work. Yeah, bishop e5. You tried to win the queen, but you've sacked way too much material. Yeah, you sacked your one rook and 2 minor pieces. That's just completely losing now. Yeah, that's just completely losing. So again, I don't see anything else. What else is there as the idea other than bishop e4 and rook takes g3? Everything else is just kind of losing, no? He takes f5, I just take it. When you take here to be able to take on g3, I'll checkmate you. Yeah, or queen e4 check as well. Yeah, this is what happens. Time pressure is a real thing. Time pressure is indeed a real thing. And yeah, 13 seconds on the clock for Grandmaster Vetoshko. I don't think we're gonna see. I don't think we're gonna see a good ending here for him. But yeah, just the king is fully safe. Too much material is sacked, as I already mentioned. Queen e4, obviously, don't do that. Queen takes g3. So the only move that you could do is bishop takes e4. And I know this looks scary, but okay, it's too much material sacrificed. So after bishop f2, that's just gonna be the end of that. Yeah, okay, they're going for this main line. I think this is out of desperation, but yeah, this just it's gonna be game over very soon, unfortunately for Grandmaster Vetoshko. And I do see the comments. And the legend. No, the legends are these 2 grandmasters. I'm just here having fun commentating alongside you guys. Again, if you guys like this edition, the first edition of Ladder Legends, do let us know. Type in the comments if you guys liked it. Leave some like comments. Do all the good feedback, and we'll keep it running with more exciting Grandmaster games. This one, just unfortunate that it's come down to this. It's come down to just it was a kind of a one-sided game for Grandmaster Mihailo. He was able to keep everything under control, and then just one small slip. But then, yeah, Grandmaster Vetoshko just went all in, and yeah, there's nothing you can do. You do end up winning the queen, but you've sacrificed one too much material. And yeah, this move is just a killer move. It continues the attack on the queen. It protects our queen. So when bishop takes g3 does get played, bishop takes g3 will continue the attack, keep the king safe, and the bishop hits the rook. So we're going to have, essentially, we're going to have 2 minor pieces, 2 rooks and a minor piece for a queen. And the opponent's king is absolutely out in the open, very easy to attack. So this is not going to be hard at all for white to sweep. Yeah, just bishop g3 is already going to be forced. You gotta have to move the queen somewhere. I'm actually just realizing queen d8 is kind of your only move, and then takes, and we do have these 2 rooks, and I have rook b8. I mean, that's just so unfortunate. Like, it should clearly be winning with other moves as well, but the fact that there's rook b8 follow-up is just brutal. Like, you're just not able to reclaim this, and yeah, one too many pieces. No chances for perpetual check. None whatsoever. So that's just going to be kind of game over. So we're back at the live. I mean, 20 seconds left for Grandmaster Vetoshko, but I'm not sure if he's going to continue this. Can Magnus defend this? That is a good question. Can Magnus defend this? No, Magnus cannot defend this. It's a little too hard, especially when your opponent has this much time on the clock, right? If Grandmaster Oleksiyenko had maybe 20 seconds, yeah, maybe then it's a little bit different, right? He has to make a few quick moves. Has to be a little bit precise. But yeah, here you're just not able to do that. I do like this continuation by Grandmaster Vetoshko. You did end up taking the queen later. So now you're trying to go for some perpetual check. Obviously, rook f2 will lose this rook. But I could just go bishop g2, exactly what Grandmaster Oleksiyenko does. And yes, it's a queen and many pawns for 2 bishops and 2 rooks. But okay, the 2 bishops and 2 rooks can combine very powerfully. No perpetual checks whatsoever. It's quite a fascinating imbalance. But yeah, there we go. We see the game is over. And let's tune in with both players. Let's hear their thought process after this exciting match. Gentlemen, what an exciting match. How do we feel? Grandmaster Mihailo, let's start with you, since you were the winner.
Variations, as Volodymyr promised, he would have a fighting game. I didn't expect that much energy from him with black pieces, and in in the beginning of the game, I slightly chuckled because I remember that some time ago we did check this line together, and I completely forgot what we analyzed whatsoever, and that was kind of funny. But otherwise, till the very end, I was not sure if I was winning. So I'm very curious to see the learn from your mistakes feature at Lichess to see what I did wrong in the game.
Grandmaster Volodymyr, what went wrong in your opinion?
Yeah, very interesting game. I think I misplayed the opening. I was debating between b5 and d6 because I remember there was a line where I played d6, then queen f3, then I played b5, and this position should arise on the board. And then if after e5, I think.
I didn't like knight d7. I didn't see a follow-up after knight d7 in that position for some reason. I was also thinking, I was like, what are you thinking about? It has to be d6, and I go queen f3, and then if b5 is hard to push, then it is a problem. Yeah.
No, I think b5 actually works. B5 and then e5, and then there was a draw. We even analyzed it, I think.
I don't
there
remember.
was like wait, what was the position again? Let me just check.
Maybe you can tell us, Emil.
Yes.
How did we do?
I can tell you guys. So I think there is definitely a miss up of the lines if you guys both analyze these together, because I was also commentating and I was saying, okay, after f4, logical move is to play d6, stop e5. But after b5, the engine doesn't like it precisely because of the variation that was played in the game. And then it thinks that white just has the edge there, and there's no sort of repetition line. There was one master game that was played instead of e takes f6, knight a4 was the other move, which leads the game into a completely different waters. But also possible. So
On the other hand, a Lichess engine, with all due respect, is not too strong, and sometimes strong engines can, like, say, weak engines has like +1, and the strong engine like finds that only sequence of moves that leads to
right after
something. So we'll have to check with stronger engines.
After 30, putting the depth at 50 or 60 or 70 as opposed to 20, definitely changes the evaluation. 100%. But I think, but overall, how were you guys feeling during the game? Because I think after e takes f6, b takes c3, takes on g7, bishop takes g7, bc3, I was commentating on how dynamic the position is, but I personally would prefer white, only for one reason, and one reason only being long-term safer king. So
I was not so sure about that. If I were to go knight d6 check, those Rubinstein bishops and Rotlevi-Rubinstein famous game where those bishops crushed the king, I was super scared of whatever's going to happen there. I mean, the knight d6 instead of queen f3, on move.
We can get later into that variation. Okay. I'm curious to hear, what was your thought process, Grandmaster Volodymyr?
Once again, I wasn't happy with the position I got. I knew that there is this idea after e5 to play b4, but I wasn't sure whether it was now in some other line. And after bishop c3, rook b1, I didn't like my position because I couldn't castle. My king was unsafe, and all this knight e4, bishop e4 all the time. And somehow I was all the time worse. And a lot of interesting variations, but at the same time, at the end, I was always worse. So that's why I spent so much time. I wasn't happy with literally any move I analyzed. I think white is just better, and I have to play d6. And actually, I remembered the line. Instead of b5, if I go d6, then after queen f3, I can play b5. And then after e5, de5, fe5, and there is queen a7 check.
Oh.
And after bishop e3, knight takes e5. And then queen c7, and this repetition, this draw, like bishop f4, queen a7 back, we analyze it. But I actually couldn't remember whether it's d6 or b5.
Apparently it's queen b8 instead of queen c7, but it's a draw there. That
line queen b8, sorry, queen b8. And it's like a repetition. But for some reason, in my mind, there was also a line where white plays queen e2 instead of queen f3, and then I was pretty sure that the pawn should be on d7, and I should play like knight b4 at some point, and my pawn should be on d7. So I was like confused. What am I supposed to do? b5 or d6? And I just guessed wrong, I guess.
But nonetheless,
I would say ignorance is a bliss. I didn't remember any of that.
Yeah, it's quite fascinating. Actually, we skipped a little bit over it, but Queen B6, Chad was just kind of asking, okay, why did we spend 2 tempos playing Queen B6 and Queen C7? And I was kind of explaining how, okay, maybe this is a preparation of trying to avoid sort of mainline theory and just play normal chess. Was that the intention behind it?
Yeah, well, on one hand, you can argue that this is a loss of a tempo, but on the other hand, that's the same position if I just play Queen C7, like normal time and all, but the knight is on B3 instead of D4. So if you think from that point of view, it's not always an improvement for white.
Yep.
But in the lines, like if white castles short plays F4, the knight probably belongs on B3. But okay, at least it's something new. This Grievous Sicilian, yeah, there are some new lines there, new courses, like a nice, no theory almost. I think. Okay, maybe I just don't know it. But yeah, a nice way to play some fighting chess.
Yeah, I think you guys were definitely having a very original position. That's what Chad was saying during the game, when everybody was like, yeah, okay, that's why they're the grandmasters. I understand literally nothing about this position. I do want to say that the one moment that we were discussing was on move 16. Apparently, the only continuation that is good for black is, instead of bishop c6, is to go bishop d5. And we were trying to understand why that's the case. And apparently, if we continue with the main line of 94, there's queen c6, which keeps the position in place for as far as possible, for as long as possible. Which apparently, to my eyes, the way you set up Grandmaster Volodymyr made perfect sense. The knight goes to d5, bishop on c6, with all the possibilities of tricks, of knight f4, knight e3. But somehow the engine just did not like it, yeah?
Yeah, that's why I played it, and that's why I just checked 9 minutes on this move, bishop c6, because I was actually debating between bishop c6 and bishop d5, but so many lines, and I thought like, okay, well, maybe this square belongs to a knight. But to be honest, my first instinct was just to play bishop d5 right away, and maybe I had to trust it.
I actually did a lecture for, if I may promote other platforms, for Kasparov Chess Academy about time management. And what I noticed, the best players in the world, and me and other grandmasters, when anyone, even on highest level, spends too much time on a move, like 9 minutes when you have like, what, 20 something, that's too much. First of all, it almost always an inaccuracy or a mistake. And almost always the first obvious move was correct one. This is so fascinating for me. Like, I even checked the candidates, correct me to check what I'm saying. I checked the candidates, and I checked every time the top players spent too much time on a move. It was almost always a bad move or one of several good moves. Either way, not worth it. So, and very often when the very bad move was played, the obvious move was correct. Like the obvious move, the first one that comes to mind was correct, which is ironic, I would say.
Very fascinating, yeah. I guess going through the game, the only other moment that we really need to discuss, or two moments, there's a lot of moments, of course, but yeah, this was quite fascinating, because when on move 18, I was thinking, okay, after 95, black's completely lost. And then only later I realized rook g8, knight d6, queen takes d6 is a brilliant idea, which was quite fascinating. Did that come like internally as a shot, Grandmaster Mihailo, or are you already kind of anticipating that being the move, or did you only realize once rook g8 was played?
First of all, I didn't believe much in rook g8 at first, but then I forgot that after knight d6, queen d6, bishop d6, there's like bishop d4 check in many lines that I completely forgot. Because like one pawn on g2, I thought like knight e3 is coming. I would have like worst case scenario like queen e2 or queen f3. I'll be fine. But for some reason, I forgot about bishop d4, which either puts the king into basically a mating net on h1, or I pin myself as rook f2. Knight c3 is coming. Then like, whoa, I got horrified. So, and then I was like, okay, I underestimated this move, because the reason I underestimated it, to be honest, at first second, I didn't see a threat. So I forgot that knight f4 is coming. So I was like, okay, rook g8, but f5 is not coming. I have like a check on h5. I'm not too worried. And so I have plenty of moves. But then I was like, oh, wait, something is coming. So I was first thinking about g3 or rook f2, but both too passive. And then I just decided to land on queen f3. The problem with queen f3 was that then maybe I'm not even threatening in some lines knight d6 because of the x-ray.
Right.
But I was like, I need to. They told me you need to develop pieces in an opening, so I decided to do that.
Yeah, I totally understand. Yeah, apparently Engine did love Rook F2 a lot more purely because of what you were saying of sometimes you didn't have knight d6 tempos, but with
So Rook F2 just defending G2, and now knight d6 is coming.
yeah, now it's an actual threat. Yeah, so
Okay.
but Queen F3 I thought also a very logical move because yeah, we're just covering F4 and we still continue with the plan. And I really like this next sequence, Bishop B6 and Queen B8. I know the Engine says, okay, this is an inaccuracy on move 20, but I really love this move because obviously Queen C8, the endgame is lost for black, right? We never want to go there. So
Yeah.
This is one of those moments where, yeah, like we tell our
To be
students,
honest,
keep playing.
instead of playing bishop b6, I was thinking about knight d6. I thought queen d6 is obligatory. Bishop takes, bishop f3, rook f3, much better endgame. That was my evaluation. Two bishops, no threats, open position. I love it. Even bishop h7 might be coming in some lines. So, but then I realized that on knight d6, I don't know, I was scared of king d8 even. I take on f7, I come back, and I was not sure how to continue. Come back to e4. I might lose the bishop on c5. So and then I saw bishop b6 as well, and I missed queen b8. So I thought bishop b6 is a win. So I'm just winning a queen, or like a fascinating endgame after two bishops, some dominating. But I missed queen b8, and I was like, okay, I'm not winning apparently. I need to win all over again. At least that was my feeling.
Yeah. In fact, the position is actually winning, but it's a very fascinating move. The move was rook b3, and it's basically setting up the threat of taking the bishop. The idea is once again to play bishop c5 and then just capture the bishop on c3, which is quite fascinating.
Instead of f5, rook b3, yeah?
Yeah. And
rook b3 and bishop d5?
Rook b3,
move
bishop
21, I'm guessing.
Yeah, bishop d5, yeah.
Bishop d5 and then bishop c5 nonetheless, because after bishop takes b3, c takes b3, Engine just says plus minus 4.
Okay.
Bishop saying knight d6 is coming.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then the main problem...
I was afraid of rook b3 actually there, and that's the move I was calculating, but then f5 was all of a sudden, I didn't even check this move, and I panicked, I think, because I had less than 2 minutes.
That was my plan, because
I
the move
felt
f5,
like
this
f5
is the
should
move
not
you
be good,
miss.
because
You know,
the-
queen e5 is coming, knight g4 is coming. I was like, I'm going to go f5. And I didn't consider rook b3 for full disclosure.
I just
didn't even look.
I just put the main line for the audience to see, but yeah, basically after bishop takes b3, cb3, knight e4, bishop e4, d5, you sack bishop takes d5 and queen takes c3, and then the king is just way out exposed. But yeah, f5 apparently, yeah, logical move because it threatens fe6 and just win the game. But it actually surrenders the e5 square, and there's queen e5. And I'm not sure, this is where I was talking about the time management and how it's just unfortunate that Grandmaster Volodymyr, you had less time, and maybe you just missed queen e5 based on that, right?
No, queen e5 was again my first instinct, but then I thought that there might be some d takes, f takes e6.
F takes e6 was my plan, followed by queen f6, and I didn't see what's wrong with that.
Yeah, bishop e4, e takes f7, then
or take bishop e4. I thought
bishop e4, and there is a pin. What to do there?
Maybe queen takes e6, a calm move.
Yeah, so
I don't know, but
actually, I was never able to analyze the position fully. But the Engine just basically said queen e6, and after rook b1, I could not believe what I was seeing because everything is hanging. But rook b1, what a crazy move! And the Engine just says
so queen e5 takes on e6 and queen takes.
Queen takes e6 and then rook b1.
No, queen takes e6 when I have less than 2 minutes. That's like.
That's crazy, right? It's absolute
it.
chaos. And then also the audacity of the Engine just to say, yeah, it's just 0-0, guys. Like, what are we doing?
Yeah, because queen e6 is so unnatural with low on time. Expose the king. The point is, if you take with the pawn, queen takes f6. At least that was my plan. Not knight takes,
or knight f6, yeah.
Knight f6, queen f6, and
queen c6. Oh, well, if you take fe6, yeah, knight f6, queen h5 check.
Okay.
King e7 and then queen c5. That's the other one more move.
No, I saw that I have queen takes f6.
Yeah, that's the safest. That's safest. Yeah, that's
so. But queen takes e6 for the only reason to not have queen f6.
Yeah, that's what I missed. I didn't see queen e6. Yeah, so I thought after f6 I'm just losing, so I preferred something like knight g4, maybe 95. Knight h2, I realized that this is just losing because of bishop f2, but I thought maybe 95, but probably 95 is also losing, I assume, because knight f6 check 3.
Yes, I have knight f6 or even
it
queen
just
h5.
Queen
didn't feel
h5
right.
was the both are equal. Yeah, both are equal.
I'll just add one more thing. There was a nice checkmate. Mikhailo mentioned g3, I think, on move 19. That g3 was like one of the options, but I mean,
knight f4.
knight f4, 96 takes, and knight h3 checkmate on move 19. That was the idea.
Yes.
But okay, that's of course. Yeah, it's like if Mikhailo had like 3 seconds on his clock, maybe he would play this.
Yeah, that was actually one of the things that I was mentioning. If because someone asked, okay, can Magnus defend this position? I said only if the opponent had very little time. Otherwise, it's extremely hard to defend. Yeah, but definitely a fascinating match. And thank you so much for participating. And I'm sure the audience had fun. I had fun just watching this game, and I definitely learned a lot while watching both of you play. So, any final comments? Anything else?
Yeah, it's always pleasure to win the game. There's always a little hiccup when you miss a winning advantage in let's say over the board game or serious long game. It's always slightly unpleasant. So I like to use this. I like to ask Stockfish, where did I miss the win? But I'm not asking for the answer, and I want to find it myself. So that's usually helps me overcome missing a winning continuation. But who am I to complain? I won a nice game, and I was never bad or losing, which is good. So those puzzles that I did today did help. I managed to calculate reasonably well.
Yeah.
Grandmaster Volodymyr, is that going to be a sour feeling leaving a sour feeling? Would you like a rematch?
Definitely one day, yeah, for sure. But yeah, congrats to Mikhailo, a very nice game. I was under pressure all the game, and it was not fun to play that position with an exposed king. I was trying to set some tricks, but it didn't work. But at some point I was thinking, what am I entering? I just saw that Mikhailo solved 20 puzzles before the match, 20 tactical puzzles. He did 19 right, 19 out of 20. And I was like, okay, yeah, I'm entering chaos. Very nice decision. Yeah, I thought maybe I would just play e5 instead of move 1, and have some like ruler pass or like 4 knights, I don't know. So that was bad, but Mikhailo did a great job, I think, even though there were a few inaccuracies, as you mentioned. But I don't think I had a reasonable chance to save the game, to be honest.
Well, at least what it was a very fascinating match. And again, thank you so much for both of you for playing and making it exciting and entertaining. Even if, as you said, Grandmaster Volodymyr, it probably was better for you to steer it into more dry land. But at least I'm sure the audience enjoyed the chaotic lines that we got to see. So thank you once again. And thank you for the viewers watching us. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Leave us comments, feedback if you enjoyed this. We'll continue making more content like this. And thank you again. And have a good rest of your day, evening, afternoon, whatever it is. Have a good one. Bye from us. Bye.